What's going on, everybody? Good morning and a happy Friday. TGIF DK show up on the air on your radio dials 105.1 FM, 790 AM. Also available online, sportstalk1051.com. You can stream it up over there at your home devices, smart speakers. We've got the video streams also up and rolling on Facebook and YouTube, and of course, the app. You can download that and take it on the go. But happy Friday, everybody. Appreciate you making us a part of your start. What do we got on a game plan? Loaded up game plan for us this morning. Lots to get to here. Obviously, we got some football to chat. Bye week over with. Going to break down Packers versus Bears. I want your predictions. I want your keys to victory, key matchups, all that fun stuff. You can start right now to hit us up on the Shoe Doctors bullpen line at 715-830-1912, or hit us up on the socials, the video stream as well. So what are your key matchups? What are your keys to victory? And of course, I want your prediction. So, plenty of Packers and Bears chat coming at you. We're gonna hit that up here in just a little bit for our leadoff this morning. We've got Badger football taking on number one ranked Oregon tomorrow night as well. We've got Badger hoops tonight taking on ninth ranked Arizona. So big time a couple of big time Badger games coming at you in the next couple of days here. I know Marquette basketball is taking on Maryland over here too. So before they've got a big game next week taking on Purdue, a couple teams in the top 15 right now. So speaking of college, got a big couple days going on right now too. Blue Gold men's soccer team that has gotten better every single year, making a run to the Sweet 16 last year, hoping to advance further this year. And they're hosting. Started off yesterday, but Blue Gold will be in action today for their national tournament run there. Hopefully, it's a long one, but that starts tonight for them. Plus, you've got Blue Gold football wrapping up their season tomorrow. UW Stout is going to be taking on Platteville, and if Stout wins, they get a share of the Wyatt Conference title. A fantastic season so far for the Stout football team. Both Stout and Eau Claire going to be at home. Eau Claire taking on Whitewater tomorrow. And then, of course, we've got high school football tonight. We'll know who's going to be going to state. We'll know if teams like Baldwin Woodville, Boyceville, Rice Lake, DC Everest, Edgar, Stratford, those teams, we'll know if they're going to be advancing to the state championship game, which will be next week. We do know, though, that Owen Withy's playing in a championship game. That is tomorrow at Rapids. But with all that, Brandon Berg's going to be joining us as usual on a Friday morning to do some local sports roundups. So I know we've had some winter sports and on the prep scene at least kind of start some practice and such. So lots to break down, recap, and preview with our guy, Mr. Berg, who'll be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. And I know we had some local athletes too with signing day yesterday as well. So we got that. Before Brandon pops up, we'll catch up with Dr. Crow inside the training room, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, coming up just past 7 o'clock this morning. Speaking of Brandon, too, we've got some Brewers chat coming at you. William Contreras being named to the first team All Major League Baseball team last night as a catcher. As the Brewers continue to rack up some off-season awards, off-season recognition. But as kind of teased a little bit yesterday too, Brandon, we know is our Brewer guy, right? And he put in some work with this project. So he kind of inspired by Brew Crew Ball's annual off-season plan. Brandon did his own, and we're talking about free agents, and he broke it down even by money, salary-wise, what would work out. I mean, we're talking about every single position player, every single starting pitcher, bullpen, uh, trades, lineups going up against right-handed pitchers and left-handed pitchers. So we're going to break it all. I've got it in front of me, but some interesting picks on here from Mr. Berg, our noted Brewer resident expert. So we'll get to that with some baseball talk and Brewers talk coming at you. Coming at you too. So we know the Bucks are going to be in action tomorrow, looking to have their winning streak extend to 3 games, right? So hopefully that's the case. But plus, little cream of the crop. We'll get to that probably in the 8 o'clock hour, and as usual, we end up with some picks and predicts as we do every day. So, but it's a Friday and it's a TGIF. Thank gosh it's a football Friday. So let's get her going here, talking a little Packers Bears. So before we get into it, just a little bit of an update on the injury report yesterday. There were some additions to the Packers. Now, not really anybody who did not participate, but Elton Jenkins listed as a limited participant, and Jordan Morgan listed as a limited participant, and Rasheed Walker. So you're talking 3 offensive linemen listed as a limited participant. Those 3 were not listed on the Wednesday report. So a couple of additions there. Other than that, Colby Wooden was still the only Packer player to not practice. Jordan Love still listed as a full participant. Jair and Evan Williams and Josh Myers continued to practice yesterday too. Bears wise, they may be a little short with Brisker, their defensive back, did not practice for the second day in a row, dealing with concussion. Jenkins, their offensive lineman, did not practice for the second day in a row. So maybe looking like that it's trending not in a good direction for those 2 players to potentially play, but who knows? We'll see. Still got a couple days left to go here. So we heard a little bit from the coordinators yesterday too. Jeff Halfley, Adam Stanovich, chatting a little bit with the media. And if you haven't listened to Jeff Halfley talk like football, that guy, and I know Connor Orr from Sports Illustrated came out, and he does this every year, but he came out with this massive list yesterday of potential head coaching candidates and coaches, younger coaches, assistant coaches that are kind of on the rise. But one of the names mentioned as a head coaching candidate is Jeff Halfley. Here. So I selfishly hope that doesn't happen. I've been, has the defense been absolutely perfect? No, but I think most of us could agree that we've seen strides, we've seen improvements go in that direction. But Halfley yesterday saying on the Packers defense, there's a different energy that they came back with from the bye week, and it's very encouraging. It's a lot of fun to coach these guys. He also had this to say about Xavier McKinney. He said that Xavier McKinney texted him the other night around 6:30, asking if he was done with the third down plan, which the Packers, according to Ryan Wood, installed yesterday. But Xavier McKinney wanted to get a head start. Quote, he wants to get it right away, and he gets angry when he doesn't. That's what the great ones do. And I thought this was a cool little note here, too, that Halfley said, this again was according to Ryan Wood, was complimentary of Matt LaFleur's adjusting the practice schedule to include fewer scout reps. So we hear a lot of times in practice, right? Scout teams, trying to emulate what teams do. And this one is a little bit of a unique week because the Bears have changed their offensive coordinators. Now, again, are they going to completely abandon the playbook? No, probably not. Are they going to add a few different things in there? Yes, probably so. But and I don't know if this is something for just this week or if it's going to continue on. I think it's kind of going to continue on here. But Halfley said Matt LaFleur adjusting practice to include fewer scout reps, more ones versus ones. According to Ryan Wood, too, the Packers had 10 third down reps against starters in yesterday's practice. And Halfley, quote, said, "You know how you get better at football? You practice football against good players." Yeah. I've been more and more, and again, I've been more impressed with Jeff Halfley. I know a lot of the stuff I think a lot of fans were impressed from everything he's had to say in the offseason, preseason, and such. But if you haven't like listened to one of his weekly pressers, it's some good stuff. It's some good stuff over there. So hopefully, with everything that he said yesterday, that translates into a fantastic second half of some Packers play, specifically on that Packers defense. Maybe some pressures, maybe some solid run stoppage, and all that good stuff. So did see Robert Sala was back at Packers practice, helping out the Packers during Bears week. So he was spotted on the practice field again. So back in town, not sure how long or such, but let's jump right into it though, shall we? We'll take our first break and then get the leadoff going here this morning. Break it all down. Packers versus Bears, key matchups, keys to victory, and your predictions. Start to hit me up with those messages, okay? Whether it's on the texting line, on the video stream, on the socials, whatever the case may be. Start to hit me up with your key matchups and your keys to victory. Give me a sleeper player and give me your predictions. Bears week coming to a conclusion. Got the game coming up in just a couple days. We'll break it all down coming up after these quick words. maybe a week from today, you're going to be hitting the road, heading to deer camp, getting set for the 9-day deer gun season. That'll start a week from tomorrow. Minor, if you need any last minute supplies, like maybe some ammo, maybe a new scope, maybe some other accessories, or maybe you're still looking for a new deer rifle, or a high quality used one. Tilden Gun has you covered. Okay, so make sure you go visit our good friends at Tilden Gun today. Or maybe you're thinking about some Christmas gifts coming up here a little bit too. Maybe you can check out their websites, tildengun.com, or stop by their shop at 12427 98th Avenue in Chippewa Falls. And again, as always, best of luck and be safe. And don't forget, if you do have any luck, to send us those photos so we can put them up on the Tilden Gun photo board at our website, sportstalk1051.com. Just click on that outdoors tab over there. All right, let's get things rolling. Packers, Bears, the longest. So you get ready to hear that mentioned how many times during the telecast or such, but the NFL's longest rivalry gets renewed. First matchup between these two teams this year. First division matchup for the Bears this year too, and the Packers looking to notch their first win in the division column after dropping games to Minnesota and Detroit. Let's do our little bit of a scouting reports, shall we? Let's start off with the offense. Packers, still after the bye week, third in the NFL in total offense. We're talking total yards per game. There's only two teams ahead of Green Bay in terms of average yards per game. That's Baltimore and that's San Francisco. Baltimore and San Francisco are the only two teams that are over 400. So Baltimore's got 440.2. San Francisco's averaging 412.4. Green Bay 390.6. I still feel like that gets a little overlooked. I think if you just asked a general fan, maybe, or maybe just, it's like when you say, hey, Malik Willis played a couple games, then he played, at the end of the Jacksonville game there, you'd be like, okay, probably not a whole lot. Factor all that in, Green Bay still, I think we all agree that Green Bay's offense still has left a lot on the table and kind of keeps shooting themselves in the foot. And I feel like the offense is still a unit, is still a group that is holding themselves back just by stupid mistakes and penalties and drop balls. And with all that, they're still third in total yards on offense in the entire league. And we still, I think most of us feel like we have not seen the best of what this offense can do. We haven't seen it fully come together yet on a consistent basis. Now, if you break it down a little bit further, in terms of passing yards, Green Bay is a top 10 team in passing yards. And again, that includes a couple games with Malik Willis in there where they weren't throwing a lot, but they're still a top 10 team. Passing yards, really, I think I'd be curious. I'll have to look this up, but it feels like they're a little bit lower compared to other years prior because Green Bay's a top 10 team. They're averaging 235.8 yards per game through the air. Ironically, kind of weird when like the last few years, this is their pedigree was like running the football. The number one team in the league for passing yards per game is Seattle with Geno Smith. San Francisco's 2, Baltimore's 3 too. We know the top rushing team in the league, and that's Baltimore. Green Bay, third in the league in running the football, behind Baltimore and Philadelphia. So offensively, top 5, top 10s all over. They are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, ninth in the league in scoring average, 25.6 points per game. So that's Green Bay's offense. That's how they stack up, even after coming off the bye week. Where does the Bears stack up with this thing? A Chicago Bears offense that has changed offensive coordinators for this week. Firing Waldron, their offensive coordinator, going to Thomas Brown, former Badger running back coach back, 10 years ago or so. Looking for a little bit of like a spark, looking for something to get this thing going. Because when you look at last week's game against the Patriots, Caleb Williams was just 16 of 30 for a buck 20. Swift, 16 carries for 59 yards against the Patriots. The Bears in total yards against the Patriots last week had 142. 142 yards. Against the Cardinals the week prior, the Bears had 241 total yards. Caleb Williams, 217 through the air. Swift, 51 yards. If we go back to the Hail Mary game against the Commanders in that one, Williams finished with 131 yards passing, but it was, if you remember, if you were watching that game, it was tough going for a long time for a big majority part of that game. Swift did have a day with a buck 29 on the ground, and the Bears did have 307 total yards rushing. But overall, how has the Bears stacked up all season long offensively? They're the third worst team in total yards per game average on offense, 277.7. The two teams that are worse than them, the Browns and the team they just lost to, the New England Patriots. Passing yards per game, Chicago, third worst, averaging 169.6 through the air. The only two teams worse, Tennessee and the Patriots, the team, again, that they lost to last week. The Bears are also one of the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yep. So top or bottom 10 in rushing yards per game. They're averaging 108.1 yards per game on the ground. In terms of points, Chicago, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So still bottom 10 in terms of points per game, 19.4. Now let's compare to how these defenses are rolling here. There's got to be some positives with the Bears with their defense, right? It's got to be Chicago defense. Well, if we look at it in terms of yards allowed per game, Green Bay and Chicago right next to each other. Green Bay's slight advantage. They're just outside the top 10. In fact, Minnesota, Green Bay, and Chicago right there with each other. There is actually a gap between Minnesota and Green Bay, but in terms of rankings, that's how it goes here. Green Bay averaging 320 yards, giving up 320 yards per game defensively. Chicago, 323.4. But where Chicago's defense has been fairly good has been through the air. Their passing defense. 8 interceptions so far this year. They've gotten 8 interceptions so far this year, and they are a top 10 team in passing yards allowed per game, just giving up 190.4 per game. Compare it, Green Bay's about middle of the pack here a little bit. So, and then when you look at rushing yards per game, defensively, Green Bay is actually a better rush defense than what Chicago is. Green Bay just outside the top 10, 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10th, it looks like. I wish they would have put the ranking numbers next to it. But Green Bay just giving up 113. Still, it sounds weird, but giving up 113 on the ground. Chicago, actually, towards the bottom 10, 133 yards per game they are giving up on the ground. But Chicago's defense has been stingy in keeping teams out of the end zone. While they've been giving up some rushing yards, and they're about with Green Bay in terms of yards per game and that. They're a top 10 team, Chicago is, in terms of points allowed per game. 18.6 points per game. Green Bay, by comparison, is 21.6. So that's kind of where the rankings are at, where they kind of stack up with some of these other teams out there. So with all that being said, what are some of the key matchups, keys to victory and such? Well, I think one of the things you look at is the Bears' pass defense. Numbers tell you that they're stingy. That's one of their best suits on it, or best areas on their defense, best areas on their team overall. We mentioned intercepted 8 passes. They're 7th in passing yards allowed per game. And when you look at it, okay, Jordan Love, what's one of the things that we have wanted him to be better at? Taking care of the football, not throwing interceptions. So I think that when you look at both of those, Jordan Love's issues with the interceptions, even Green Bay's issues with dropsies with a couple of wide receivers, going up against a Chicago pass defense that has been it's been pretty darn solid. That's a key matchup. And if Jordan Love can take care of the football, but able to move the ball through the air if they have to, keeping drives going, and not, again, we keep preaching it, but again, for the love of all, stop with the pre-snap penalties. Stop with the holding penalties. Do not put your offense in tighter situations. I don't want to see 3rd and 10s, 3rd and 15s, 2nd and 15s, where, if you are going to get into obvious passing situations, it's going to play in the hands of Chicago's defense. That's what they want. If you are going to keep, putting yourself in a position where it's going to be, we got to throw the ball, that's playing in the hands of the Bears. So no more stupid penalties that stall drives or put you in tough positions. Limit the drops to keep those drives going, and no turnovers on the offensive side. We're talking just from the from the passing aspect, because again, when you look at this, it's like, okay, this has got to be a Josh Jacobs game. This has got to be a running game, because this is the one weakness that this Bears defense has had is stopping the run. So again, and we mentioned it the other day, I want to see in the second half, and it starts on Sunday, a continued effort to give Josh Jacobs 20-25 plus carries per game, still have this running attack be the focal part of this offense. It's got to be a part of the main part of this offense. Get the run going, establish the run, get Josh Jacobs going, pick up those 6, 5, 6, 7-yard runs. Get yourself into manageable situations. If it's 2nd and 3 or 3rd and 2, continue to put your offense in positive situations, not those long down distances of 2nd and 11 or 3rd and 15 or whatever the case may be. You get it to a 3rd and 2, a 2nd and 4, something like that, it opens up more in the playbook. So the offense has to have success running the football against this Chicago defense that has been giving up some yards on the ground. They're 24th. No, that's their offense. I wanted their defense, but they're towards the bottom. They're towards the bottom in terms of rushing yards allowed on the defensive side. So Josh Jacobs has to, they're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9th. So 9th worst rushing defense. Focus on Josh Jacobs, focus on the running game, continue to get that thing going, put yourself in manageable downs, get the run established to set up the pass. Establish the run to set up the pass. And if you are in passing situations, don't turn the ball over. Don't make stupid reads. Don't make stupid decisions. And catch the dang football. And please, let's start to limit the penalties on the offensive line or on the offensive side. So that's a key match. That's key to victory. Elsewhere, there's a chance for this Packers defensive front to put some pressure on Caleb Williams. We've talked about it last week going up against the New England Patriots. The Patriots had 9 sacks on Caleb Williams. Caleb Williams is a mobile quarterback. We know this. He can run it. He can use his legs, extend plays, scramble it out in that. But the Patriots had success getting after him 9 times. 9 times in that game last week. And when you look at the last couple of weeks here too, even the Cardinals had 6 sacks on Caleb Williams. Can Jeff Hafley, especially with his secondary background, especially with Xavier McKinney back there, can they confuse the rookie quarterback? Can they confuse Caleb Williams on pre-snap reads? Because if they could confuse, that's what the Patriots did a really good job with against the Bears last week, confusing Caleb Williams and then getting after him. Can the Packers replicate that? Now, we know maybe that the Bears are going maybe simplify some stuff for Caleb Williams. Make it a little bit, it sounds bad, but I think, Thomas Brown, we know he's going to do some things differently in terms of calling the game planning and such. Are they going to simplify it a little bit more for Caleb Williams? So they're going to, I would assume, you're going to try to put him in a position to where he's not going to get too confused, where he's not going to turn the ball over, where he's not going to take a lot of unnecessary sacks. They're going to try to put him in a position to succeed. So how does Jeff Hafley and this defense counter that? How do they confuse him? And when you look at the Bears' offensive line, they're banged up. I mean, you look at the injury report, we'd mentioned Jenkins did not participate, but their tackles, right? Limited participant. Jones, limited participant. So there's a chance. There's a chance that if those guys don't go or if they're banged up, I want to see Rashawn Gary take advantage of that. I want to see Lucas Van Ness bust out. He's had some success against Chicago in his 2 games. I think he's had a sack in every single game is what I read against the Bears here. So you've got a banged up Bears offensive line. Let's bring the noise. Let's bring some pressure on him and make Caleb Williams uncomfortable back there. But you got to have that pressure too. You don't want to be so aggressive, and we've seen this before from Packers defensive fronts. We don't want to be so aggressive where, all right, now Caleb Williams is going to use his legs, and then he's going to start to gain some confidence if he's going to be able to pick up some big runs using his legs, using his feet, right? Collapse that pocket on him. Collapse it. Make him uncomfortable. Get him to the ground. Get that pressure against him. I want to see this front 7. I want to see the defensive line just dominate this game going up against Chicago's offensive line. This is a game with Kenny Clark, Devontae Wyatt, Rashawn, Van Ness, those TJ Slayton, Carl Brooks, whoever's playing up there. This is a game the Packers have to be able, Packers defense front has to be able to dominate against this offensive line from the Bears. They should be able. Don't let the Bears go in there and just dominate the heck out of you. Okay? Just don't. There's no reason they should. This is a game you have to go out there and dominate. All right? You have to. There's no question about it. Get after it. You should be able to. I don't know if Hafley's going to come out and change up his linebackers. Does he put Quay Walker as a weak side, strong side? How much more are we going to see from Edgerrin Cooper on the field? I want to see more snaps for him, for Eric Wilson and such too. But let's go, man. I want to see that. I want to see that front go. I want to see that front get after it. Other key matchups, other keys to victory with this thing here too. We already kind of mentioned, but it's the turnovers. Win the turnover battle. It's the time of possession, sort of thing here too. But again, we one of those things we talked about was the Bears defense has done a good job of keeping teams out of the end zone. And what has been one of the issues for the Packers offense? It's red zone success, getting touchdowns. So this is a Bears team that has been, not a lot of. I mean, there's been. I don't want to make it sound like they're a poo poo team or anything like that because they didn't get off to a good start, but now it's just kind of uh, uh, spiraling out of control here a little bit. But they are solid in terms of points allowed per game, and in fact, let me see if I can. Is this? Oh, those are some wrong numbers here, but we know the points per game here where Chicago's been doing a good job of of keeping the score down, right? Green Bay's red zone offense, not that great. Chicago's red zone defense, here's some numbers for you. Chicago's red zone defense is second best in terms of touchdowns allowed in the red zone. That's what I was trying to bring up here, and then the computer was being goofy. The only team that has been better than Chicago in terms of keeping touchdowns out has been the Chargers. So Chicago has only allowed 8 touchdowns in the red zone, 48 total points. Total red zone offense allowed, Chicago's defense seconds. Seconds. And here's the thing too is like you look at I'm comparing them to the Chargers right now. Okay, so like the Chargers have 7 touchdowns allowed, 42 points, 42 plays, 189 yards. Chicago's almost doubled that with the plays. They've allowed 82 plays in the red zone, 320 yards, but practically the same amount of points there. So Green Bay's got to be able, if they get in that red zone, we've talked about it, they have got to be able to come away with some points. They've got to be able to come away with some touchdowns, not always settle for field goals. This is something I want to see the Packers get better at in the second half. Red zone defense overall, defensive red zone touchdown rate, Chicago is number 1. When you factor in everything, Chicago is number 1. In defensive red zone touchdown rate, they're at a 37%. Chargers, we went through some of those numbers, 38.9. So it's going to be tough for this Packers offense to get in that red zone and come away with touchdowns, but they got to figure out how. It's going to be a battle. It's going to be a test, but it's a key matchup. And if they have success in the red zone in this game, it's a huge key to victory for the Pack. And it's they've got options. This is where I want to see Matt LaFleur get a little bit more creative when it comes to these red zone packages. Now, I don't know if it's still Adam Stenovich that does the red zone stuff and comes up with that, but if it's not working, I think this is where you maybe got to get a little bit more creative. You've got Josh Jacobs, you've got Tucker Kraft, you've got Christian Watson, you've got Romeo Doubs, you've got Jaden Reed. You've got these guys that bring something different to the table offensively. It's okay to get a little creative at that. So who's going to have the upper hand here? I mean, everything that tells us in the first half of the season, it tells you that the Bears will have the upper hand if the Packers offense gets into the red zone. That's what that tells us. We'll see if the Packers are able to buck that trend, though, coming in here. So some key players for me in this game. Then, when I look at it, I'll try to do one from key players or players who got to have a game. I don't like to say key players a lot of times because, well, they could always be the same ones, right? It's always like the main guys, like the quarterback or something like that. So players, maybe kind of under the radar players who just got to have a game. I think defensively for me, I'm going to go with Rashawn Gary / Kenny Clark. I want to see those two guys dominate this offensive line. I want to see those two guys just have their way against a banged up Bears offensive line. Kenny Clark bringing the pressure up the middle, Rashawn Gary getting it off the edge. I don't want to be stupid and too over aggressive where Caleb is going to use his legs and gain some confidence on the ground using his feet. But bring the noise, bring the pressure, get after him. Make him nervous back there. Another person I'd throw in there is, we talked a little bit about it just a few minutes ago, is Jeff Halfley. How are you going to confuse Caleb Williams? It'll be interesting to see what the Bears come out trying to do on offense right away. Are they going to try to come out right away with some new things, with some new looks, with a few different things? Because if that's the case, Jeff Halfley and his staff, they're going to have to be prepared right away. And I think they're going to go in that mindset with the idea like, yeah, we know that there's going to be some unscouted looks. They're going to try to throw some new stuff out there. We got to be prepared for that. We got to have our head on the swivel. And we got to be ready to adjust to that. So they got to be prepared for that. So I'd throw in Jeff Halfley as another kind of or a guy who's got to have a day, guy who's got to have a game. And then, offensively, I mean, you can, even though I just said that, I don't want to like keep players in that, I really feel like it might have to be Jordan Love in this game. Jordan Love or Josh Jacobs, one of those two. Because the Bears have allowed some yards on the ground. Can Josh Jacobs expose that? Can he take advantage of that? Can he be the guy that if they get in that red zone, where he gets in the end zone? And then Jordan Love, just from what we were saying earlier, too, about the Bears' pass defense. Don't make stupid mistakes. Don't turn the ball over. Bears have 8 picks this year. Don't turn the ball over. And then when you get in that red zone, get the touchdowns. It's going to be tough going up against the Bears, but get the touchdowns. I kind of wonder, too, like, when you look at these rankings and these numbers and all that, let's say Green Bay gets in the red zone, but say they're stalled at the 5. How is Matt LaFleur, or how aggressive is he going to be? Or maybe say it's at the 3. Does he look at this and like, Chicago's got the top red zone defense. We're just going to come away with points at this thing. Or does he try to be aggressive and be like, no, we got to get this thing going. We're going to try to go for it and get a touchdown. Be interesting to kind of see. All right. What do you got? Key matchups, keys to victories, all that good stuff. Quick break. We'll be back to finish up the first hour after these few words. Today is the last day. Last day today. If you want to get your swag order in at Residence Branding Company. So listen up if you're an employer, maybe you're looking for gifts to give to your employees, or maybe you're looking for some new shirts for your employees, or maybe you're looking for some cool gifts for the family, like some tumblers, custom shirts, or whatever the case may be. Backpack. I've gotten backpacks. I've gotten jackets from Residence Branding Company. Whatever the case may be, you place that order today. By today, November 15th, and use the word Casper. You're going to get 10% off your order. So you can check them out. Stop by their shop, 1728 Spooner Avenue, Suite C in Altoona. You can also check out residencebrandingcompany.com. But today is the last day. Last day. It's a perfect idea too for if you are an employer to get some of that some new swag to, I'm trying to say uniforms, but I don't think uniforms is the right word. Maybe represent your place of business and such. But Residence Branding Company, good people over there. They'll hook you up for sure. So, all right, so we've got some keys to victory here. We've got C-Bomb saying keys to victory, no stupid penalties, putting us behind the sticks, get the run game going early. They have good secondary, get them in the box and hit the air, get every point we can. They have only given up 15 touchdowns this season, second fewest in the league, no missing field goals, and must get 6 in the red zone. Jeremy say key player on offense, Tucker Kraft, key in the red zone, and if they have to move the chains, be that big possession guy. Defense, Lucas Van Ness, get pressure and start getting rid of the underperforming label. Smith is gone now. You are the guy. Special teams, Nix or Reed, whoever's returning. Too many drop punts or mental breakdowns, and it would be nice for a return for positive yards. Josh is going with a prediction of 31-10 over the Bears. G-Man, good to hear from you, man. Hope all is well, G-Man. DK, keys to victory is the Packers special teams, and the Pack will win 30-17. And after further review, the Bears still suck. Go, Pack, go, from our Hall of Famer, G-Man over there. Keep those coming. Keep your predictions coming, your key matchups and your keys to victory, and give me a player or a player from each side of the ball that's got to have a game. That player that's got to have a game. Okay? Hit me up with those texts, or video stream it, or hit me up on the socials too. We got a busy 7 o'clock hour coming up here. We're going to kick it off with Dr. Crow inside the training room. His quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, had another knee surgery. Should there be some cause of concern? We'll ask Dr. Crow about that, amongst some many other things out there. So, I'm going to ask him about Chris Middleton too, with him having those 2 ankle surgeries, and then kind of feels like there's been no progress. So we'll get his thoughts on that. We've got Brandon Burke coming up after that. We'll do some local sports roundup. We'll get to his Brewers off-season plan coming at you. Plus more football talk, Badger football. On a scale of 1 to 10, Badger football fans, how excited are you for the Oregon game tomorrow? Are you just ready for maybe a bloodbath at this point? Badger hoops, though, they got a big game tonight, taking on 9th-ranked Arizona. Tonight's the night, too, that the Badger basketball team will be raising Bo Ryan's name up into the rafters and honoring those Final Four teams, well, because they beat Arizona to go to the Final Four. So should be a fun night tonight. If anybody's going to that game, that should be a lot of fun to go down there. So shot clock's going to cut me off here, so again, busy 7 o'clock hour. I want to give away another burger from Princeton Valley Golf Course, okay? So we're going to gave one away yesterday. Who is the most active listener via texting or hitting us up with tweets or messages on the video stream, all right? The MVP listener. So keep those texts, questions, comments coming. 1 hour in, we got 2 more to go. We'll be back after these news updates.
W286CK Eau Claire, Sports Talk 105.1 and 790 AM. From the 715 Newsroom, it's your news done differently with Morgan McCarthy.
Good morning. Here's what we're learning today. Putting a finger on the pulse of the healthcare landscape in the Chippewa Valley, a new development. Of course, Chippewa Falls has been without hospital since HHS and Prevea closures earlier this year. And now Aspirus Health says they plan to enter the area with a new facility in the works that could be as open in as little as a year and a half. The hopes is to find a site close to Highway 29. Now, you may recognize the name Aspirus. It's based in the central part of our state and has 18 hospitals throughout Wisconsin, Minnesota, and stretching into Michigan. On the national level, Donald Trump is nominating Robert F. Kennedy Jr. to lead the Department of Health and Human Services, and we'll continue to look at some of those picks in reaction, and particularly here in the Dairyland. Another department is the Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE, and Elon Musk is taking the top spot there, saying he'll receive no compensation for work under President-elect Trump. The tech billionaire wrote on X that it will require, quote, tedious work, and he expects to make, quote, a lot of enemies. Meanwhile, the other picks are also getting reaction from Dairyland representatives, and we'll show you different sides so you can decide. Lawmakers here in Wisconsin are reacting to President-elect Donald Trump's nomination of Florida Representative Matt Gaetz to be U.S. Attorney General. He resigned from his position as a state representative after that nomination. On one side of the aisle, Republican Senator Ron Johnson says he's going to support Trump's nominations. Across the aisle, Democratic U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin saying that she's asking the House Ethics Committee to release a report on Gaetz concerning allegations of sexual contact with a minor, and that the report should be available for senators considering the nomination. Well, the fill-up could go up when it comes to EVs. It could soon be more expensive to charge those at a gas station or store. Just recently now, the Wisconsin Department of Revenue announced that the state's EV charger tax will begin in January. The tax will be 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Businesses will have to pay the tax. People who have an EV charger at home would not. State lawmakers approved that as a way to make up for the gas tax that EV drivers are not paying. Well, to begin the week, we saluted our heroes and veterans, and Governor Tony Evers and the First Lady are inviting the public to now contribute ornaments to a tradition. The Tribute to Our Troops tree has been a tradition in our state since 2005 and honors Wisconsin service members who have served or are currently serving in the U.S. Armed Forces. Now, those ornaments can be sent in honor of Wisconsin service members, past, present, and in Wisconsin and abroad. And you can find full details and be part of the Tribute to Our Troops tree tradition here in our state, 715newsroom.com. And Riz, it's like so last year. So what are we flipping pages for this year, Oxford?
This year's contenders are lore, brain rot, dynamic pricing, demure, slop, and romantasy. Voting for the winner remains open until November 28th. Oxford's previous word of the year was Riz, which is short for charisma. I'm Mark Mayfield.
Hey, that was something we were going to throw into the show here. You're listening to Sports Talk 105.1 with Dan Casper, or
Brain rot.
hey, for that Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Morgan McCarthy.
We're off to another mild start this morning as temperatures top out in the low to mid 50s. Later on, some cloud cover going to hang around mixed in with some sunshine at times. Later on tonight, cloud cover sticks around again. Temperatures falling to the upper 30s. For tomorrow, winds start to kick up out of the south, going to push our temperatures into the mid 50s despite some cloud cover. Cooling off to the upper 40s and low 50s on Sunday and staying in the low 50s for Monday as conditions stay dry. I'm 13 First Alert meteorologist Mike Dandria.
Good morning. It's time to take a look at some farm news on Sports Talk 105.1. As the transition to the newly elected administration begins, the National Farmers Union has sent a letter to President-elect Donald Trump urging focus on policy priorities essential to the health and vitality of rural America. In the letter, the National Farmers Union highlights key priorities, including 3 main topics: strengthening the farm safety net, ensuring competitive markets, and trade. Additional priorities outlined in NFU's letter include support for a simplified tax code, right to repair legislation, access to high-quality health care, and a stable agricultural workforce, among others. The president of the American Farm Bureau Federation, Zippy Duvall, told bankers at the Ag Bankers Conference on Wednesday that farmers need financial support from Congress before they adjourn for the year. The current farm bill will likely get extended for another year to develop a bill early in the new Congress. But time can move slowly when drafting rules for a farm bill. Duvall noted it might take a, in quote, miracle to get a 5-year farm bill done in the lame duck Congress. Even if Congress quickly passes a farm bill, the policy changes with reference prices or commodity support would take a year to 18 months to become effective. And Duvall said, in quote, farmers need aid sooner. As we start to wrap up harvest and before it gets too cold, you're probably looking at hauling manure. The Wisconsin Department of Ag Trade and Consumer Protection is reminding farmers and manure applicators to check the runoff risk advisory forecast before spreading manure on fields. This tool helps determine the potential for manure runoff from a field depending on weather conditions and that soil temperature. The maps account for soil saturation, the temperature, and precipitation on a scale of a 1.5 square mile grid. The risk maps are updated 4 times daily with the latest information from the National Weather Service. That's a look at some of your farm news on Sports Talk 105.1. I'm Kristen Smith.
Are you dealing with any aches and pains this season or an injury that just doesn't seem to heal? You don't have to live your life dealing with pain every single day. With Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, you can start to live your life pain-free. Whether you are a professional athlete, weekend warrior, or simply have an aching joint, rest assured that you will receive unsurpassed care delivered with compassion and respect. So make your appointment today by visiting cvosm.com and start living that pain-free, healthy life.
Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So, what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate.
Ladies and gentlemen, sports aficionados and armchair quarterbacks, welcome to the Dan Casper Show, where sports passion meets expert analysis. Dan's encyclopedic knowledge and infectious passion for all things sports is both impressive and sad.
I have many leather-bound books.
So get ready to laugh, cheer, and maybe even facepalm a few.
At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought.
It's the Dan Casper Show.
Second hour kicks off right now on this Friday morning of November 15th. A big thanks for tuning in, wherever, however you're tuning in. We got a couple of texts. Smuck says, win your one-on-one. Surveyor Sam even chiming in, saying keys to victory. Sack Caleb 5+ times, and we have this in the bag. Key players, Jaden Reed with 6 catches for 75 and a touchdown. Lucas Van Ness with 2 sacks. Keep those texts coming. Maybe you will be the MVP listener this morning for that Princeton Valley massive burger that they got for their burger of the month here. All right, we got Brandon Berg coming up here. We're going to do some local sports roundup with him, plus some Brewers chats, and get back to more football talk as well. But we kick off this hour with our doctor.
Paging Dr. Crow. Breaking down the latest in sports injuries. It's time for Inside the Training Room with Dr. Crow. On the Dan Casper Show.
He is Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. First up, Austin, just want to again say congrats. I think we lost Dr. Crow.
Yeah, it was a tough season, way to end, but we proud how we played through the whole year.
Let's try this. I think we, Doctor, if you can hear us, we got a little feedback here. If you want to try giving us a call back a little bit. So, all right, so yeah, so I can barely hear Dr. Crow a little bit. It's kind of a weird over there, but technology, man, right? Somebody, Murph was probably messing around in the other studio over there and screwing things up over. So we'll get Dr. Crow back up here in just a second here too. But obviously tonight too, we've got the final round of high school football before they decide. Well, winners tonight will be going to state. We still got a few local teams that are in it. Owen Withy though too, 8-player football. They're competing for a championship tomorrow night. Let's try. Oh, that sounds already better. Dr. Crow joining us this morning. That sounds better. Technology, man.
Sounds good on my end.
Yeah, there we go. Hey, first off, I wanted to say congrats on a wonderful season for your Regis Ramblers. I know tough loss last week, but nonetheless, a congrats on a fantastic season and first year coaching too, right?
Yeah, it was a great year. I mean, it takes a lot of time and effort, certainly, to be on the coaching staff, and you got to give a lot of credit to all the coaches out there across the country that do this because it is a lot, but it's very rewarding, and it was a fun season. We obviously took an undefeated record into that game, and couldn't be more proud of what the guys did. We had a couple of key injuries that really hurt us, but at the end of the day, we tried our best, and the boys left it on the line, so you can't really ask for anything more than that.
Absolutely. So, let's get right to it. I want to lead off talking about your quarterback of the future for Minnesota, Austin. I saw the other day he had another knee surgery, another procedure with that knee. Is there any cause of concern that he had to have another procedure, or is this pretty typical, pretty normal kind of thing?
Yeah, so there are some conflicting reports. I did a pretty deep dive on this, given that it's my team.
Right.
So it sounds as though it was an injection, and they said a biologic injection. So almost certainly that means either stem cell or PRP injection. So to answer the first question, is it concerning or like is this standard? Yes, it's concerning, and no, it's not standard. So they said it was in response to a little bit of knee swelling with a ramp up in activity. So the concern, I'm sure, is that the meniscus repair is not healing correctly. Now, I can guarantee you they got an MRI before they did anything. And so the MRI probably showed the meniscus looked like it was healing in, and they wanted to kind of throw the kitchen sink at this. So they do a biologic injection. So again, PRP or stem cell, the idea is that's going to stimulate growth factors, which should increase the healing rate in that meniscus there. There isn't a lot of good, studies that say that's going to be super effective technique. But when you're talking about these kind of guys, doing the extra step is something that they're definitely willing to do. Very low risk to do this, but absolutely gives me concern. It's not something that you want to see, because if everything was going smoothly, they wouldn't do it. So it's definitely not something that's done routinely. So we'll certainly have to keep an eye on how it progresses. But the good news is I think the reports of it being a surgery were incorrect. It was just an injection. Less concerning, but still not ideal.
So that have a lot to do, because when you with those injections and such, is that again like the coach? Because I know we're kind of tarnished with that, but I keep thinking Bakhtiari at that point.
Yeah, I mean that is a possibility, because unfortunately sometimes cartilage injuries do go along with meniscal tears, so that does have to be a potential. But in this situation, I think that's a lot less likely. Isolated meniscal tears and cartilage injuries are not very common to go together. You throw in a ligament injury, now all of a sudden you're talking very common. So you have an ACL, PCL tear, something like that. Cartilage injuries are common, but a standalone meniscus tear like he had makes it unlikely. So I think the odds of it being a cartilage-based injury, and that would be a lot more concerning. You're right. Then you're starting to talk about, okay, is this a knee that we're going to have to be dealing with his entire career? And that's not a situation you want to be in. So there's certainly the hope it's not that. I think it's unlikely to be that.
Gotcha. Dak Prescott, he's right now done for the season after undergoing surgery. As the official phrasing is a partial avulsion of his right hamstring. Was that partial tear, like the hamstring came off the bone a little bit?
Yep. So that's a surgery that I do. So I take care of patients that have that same injury. It's not super common, but we do see it. So when we talk about a hamstring injury, a vast majority of them are going to be a quote pulled hamstring, right? So we've all, well, not all of us, but a lot of us have experienced those. So obviously a lot of pain, tightness, but those injuries are in the muscle or the muscle tendon junction. It is a very different injury when the tendon avulses or tears right off the bone. In that situation, it doesn't heal correctly, or at least not always. So depending on the extent of the partial tear, sometimes we're able to rehab them. Sometimes we're able to, just kind of get through without surgery. But unfortunately, sometimes you do have to go in and fix it. And certainly an athlete like this that requires, explosive movements and peak performance, partial tear may be something that you're worried about not healing correctly. So then they'll go in and fix that. So what you do is you go down to what's called the sit bone, so the ischial tuberosity. So it's the bone that's like the knob of your butt, if you will. That's where that hamstring originates. You go in, you put an anchor or two in the bone, you grab the tendon, pull it back up. It's kind of a prolonged recovery, so he'll be on crutches for probably 4 to 6 weeks. Ramp up activity from there, but a good 5-6 months till he's doing any real vigorous activity. So it's a pretty long recovery. Clearly, of course, this season is done, but I do think the prognosis is good. The majority of patients that have this surgery are pretty happy with how it turns out in the long run.
Is that too why that maybe they took a long time for them to decide if he was going to have surgery or not, because of the possibility of rehab?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, with these partials, partial can mean anywhere from 1% to 99% torn, right? Both those are considered quote partial. So if you look at it, that there's a lot of factors that go into play. I mean, certainly again, who you're talking about. Sometimes we get a referral from someone like a 75-year-old person who their highest level of activity is playing shuffleboard. I mean, that person's never going to put the demands in the body of like, oh yeah, you're an NFL quarterback. So you have to look at what the patient's trying to do. And so even a smaller tear can be a lot bigger deal in someone who's going to push their bodies to that edge. So in his case, I'm guessing it was symptomatic enough that it clearly was bothering him, number one. Number two, there was clear, signs of partial tears in the MRI. And three, he probably didn't progress with their initial round of some treatments. And they said, okay, it's time to pull the trigger and get it fixed.
Interesting. Staying with the quarterbacks, Trevor Lawrence sounds like he's going to miss another game, and they're calling it a AC sprain, but it's in his non-throwing shoulder. Austin, is that unusual for I feel like if it's not in his throwing shoulder, have we seen quarterbacks play with that, or is it a pretty dangerous injury to play where another hit could mean some I guess a more severe injury?
Yeah, when you look at the situation, it is a very safe injury to play with. So grade 1 and grade 2 AC separations, which is what this likely is, those are very safe to play. Now, they're also very painful to play with. And so often with those ones, we basically test it out and be like, all right, how do you feel? And sometimes it's bad enough where they can't even fully move the arm. So if you don't have full range of motion, full strength, we generally will not allow an athlete back on the field. So he may be to the point where it's like, look, this just hurts so bad, I just can't use it. And it's his non-throwing arm, which he won't use as much, but you still use that arm, right, in a lot of different things in the quarterback position. So my guess is it's a situation where it's not so much they're worried about him damaging it further. It's the fact that he probably has enough pain and dysfunction that he's not able to play. It's been this will be his second week, because I know he missed
second week. Yeah.
Did he miss the game before the second week? So
yeah.
I would bet he'll be back pretty quickly. That is one joint you can consider injecting and numbing and getting people back out there, but people, of course, are a little hesitant on that. But it's one of those things. I mean, he's obviously going to be the future of that franchise, so they don't want to risk that. So might get back in a week or two, and their season's already in trouble. I guess we can put it that way.
Yeah.
So they're probably not interested. I mean, if they were in the middle of a playoff run, they might be more inclined to push that envelope. But in this situation, I think they look at the picture and say, all right, heal up. Let's get you back when you're ready.
I know this was weeks ago, but first I've got to ask you about this because we were speculating on what was going on, but found out Ohtani had a labrum surgery to repair that. What's kind of like a typical recovery time? And is that a type of injury where you were surprised maybe that he still tried to go out there and swing a bat with a torn labrum?
It depends. I mean, so labral tears, just a quick anatomy review. If you talk about the socket or the glenoid of the shoulder, it's surrounded by a fibrocartilage rim. That's the labrum. It provides several different functions. One of them is stability of the shoulder. So when you have a tear in the labrum, it allows the shoulder to slip out of place. And his tear was probably in what we call the anterior quadrant, which allows the shoulder to slide forward and down, which is by far the most common way that the shoulder comes out of the socket. And certainly his mechanism, that's almost certainly what it was. So we actually do keep a lot of athletes on the field trying to play through those, knowing that there's going to be limitations. So I'm not overly shocked he was able to play with it, understanding that it obviously was 100%, especially given the context of where he was playing right in the World Series. But it also doesn't surprise me that he had surgery on it. So we unfortunately have to take care of a lot of athletes like that. So there's a number of different factors that come into play: size of the tear, location of the tear, associated injury. So is it just labrum? Is it labrum with cartilage? Is there any bony involvement? Is there bony involvement in the ball side? So it's called a Hill-Sachs lesion. Those are all factors that come into play when we decide whether or not it needs surgery. And again, the basically what you're looking for that athlete to get back to, he's the peak of the peak, right? So you're going to want to make sure he gets back. Now, as far as recovery time, that actually has a pretty good recovery timeline. So we're often able to get athletes back to full go in around 5 months. So that's considering some other surgeries in the body that take a full year plus to recover, he should be back around that 5 to 6 month mark doing most activities. So it'll be about 6 weeks in a sling, another 6 weeks in no heavy lifting, transition ramp back up. Month 3, 4, 5 is let's get you back to playing condition, and then hopefully go from there. So he should be back by the beginning of next season. Now, again, given who he is, maybe they'll slow play that a little bit, but I expect a full recovery and one that's quite predictable.
A couple of hoops injuries here. One, going to the Bucks here. So we're waiting for Chris Middleton to return, and I know he's a guy that's been banged up with injuries, especially the last few years. This offseason, he had surgery on both of his ankles. And then even preseason, we listened to Doc Rivers, and he kind of threw out some possibilities that we were going to see him in the final preseason game, and kind of gave the impression like, oh, he's going to be close to return. He has yet to play, and he has yet to do a lot of 5-on-5 stuff, if any at all. And Doc has been very, kind of like not revealing like a lot of coaches are. But and he was asked, is there a setback? Did he is it kind of at a pause? And he didn't really answer that. The fact that he's had 2 ankle surgery, or 2 surgeries on his ankles this offseason. And when there was some maybe positivity that he was going to play in the preseason, and we're already in the middle of November, we haven't seen him. Would you think that maybe there was a little bit of a setback that we don't know about?
I would say potentially. It's not 100% clear what he had done. So we knew it was related to ankle instability, which suggests he probably had what's called a Brostrom procedure, where we tighten up the lateral ligaments. But I also heard some reports that sounds like it was more of kind of a cleanup situation.
Mm-hmm.
In either event, the fact that he's been this timeline to try return and he keeps not hitting those numbers, that is concerning always, right? When you have a goal of like, all right, we're going to try to get back at this time point, the only reason you don't is something comes up. Now, it could be something little like, yeah, the ankles are a little swollen and sore. Not a huge deal. If you're saying, look, I still feel instability, that's a big concern. So it really depends on what's holding him back. If it's minor, not as big a deal. If it's serious stuff, this could be a bigger setback. We're worried about, potential long-term ramifications as far as like ever getting back. I mean, if he has ankles that he's not able to get back and play, and then of course, the dreaded cartilage injury, and that unfortunately does happen fairly commonly with ankle instability. So if he's dealing with a cartilage injury now, that really complicates the matter, and then you're definitely talking about career threatening. So of course that's extrapolating. That's not been stated in the public. I've not seen any reports of that, but when you start seeing these delays, it raises your eyebrows and say, wait a minute, is there something more going on here?
I got to ask you about Chet Holmgren's injury, just because I've never heard something like this when it comes to a hip injury. But it says that he suffered a right iliac wing fracture in his hip. What the heck is that?
Mm-hmm. So it's the wings, those things that flap and you fly with? No.
That's what is confusing.
No. So your iliac wing, so if you feel the side of your own hip, that the rim, like the hip pointer,
Mm-hmm.
that's your iliac wing. So the ilium is the pelvic bone. Your pelvis is made up of 3 bones, 3 on each side. The ilium is the big wing along the top, so that what you feel kind of above the actual hip joint. And so he landed right on that. It's a large area, great vascularity, great ability to heal, almost certainly will never need surgery. But because so many muscles originate from that area, it's very, very painful. So when people break that, I mean, they're shut down for a while. So I don't anticipate he'll be back anytime soon. I know they've kind of thrown out 6 to 8 weeks. I'd be surprised if he's back right at that time point, because he's going to have a hard time walking for a while. I mean, this is a very painful injury. But like I said, prognosis long-term is excellent. It'll heal, but it's going to be one that's going to limit him for a while. And, obviously he's had now 2 big injuries. So he had the Liz Frank injury in his foot.
Mm-hmm.
That was season ending. He did play all of last year, didn't miss any games, but now this year, I mean, you look at him, he's the kind of guy you could say, hey, maybe we should pack a couple pounds on his frame, but would that have helped him here? Maybe, maybe not, but it's certainly an atypical injury. I mean, pelvic injuries in athletes are rare, not unheard of, but rare. But this is one that certainly is going to hold him off for a while.
All right, before I let you go, and I'm only asking you this because I want this sport to like get back up to when we were like younger and such. Paul or Tyson tonight? Who you going with, Doc?
I mean, I was raised on Mike Tyson's Punch Out on
right?
Nintendo, so I mean, I gotta go OG on this. I don't know. I mean, it's just crazy. He's 58 years old.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy they're allowing this fight to happen. I mean, I'll watch it. I guess I'll be a sucker who'll watch it. But I hope Tyson wins. But boy, it's just unreal. He's at that age out there, but he looked pretty good. I mean, he looks like he's in pretty good shape. So do I think he's going to win? No. Do I hope he's going to win? Yes.
I'm the same way. I want him to win. And I think a lot of it is just the nostalgia. Like I just want it. First of all, I want boxing to get back to like when we were younger, right? Like the Evander Holyfields and Tysons and all that. So I'm putting too much hope into this because I want Tyson to just go out there and dominate.
I think we're in the same camp there.
Yep.
I think we're in the same camp there. I think it just, MMA is kind of cut into that niche a little bit. So I don't know if boxing will ever be what it was, but yeah, I mean, we grew up with the Holyfields, the Tysons. I mean, there was some pretty good boxing back then. I remember watching fights, and it'll be hard to say if that ever gets back to that.
I agree. All right, Doctor, we appreciate it as always, man. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll catch up with you again soon. Okay, bud?
Sounds good. Take care.
You got it. Dr. Austin Crow, Chippewa Valley Orthopedics and Sports Medicine, joining us here this morning. Hey, if anybody else is going to watch it, give me your picks. Tyson, Paul. We don't usually talk boxing too much, but we'll make that part of our picks and predicts, Brandon. Quick break. We'll be back in just a couple minutes. How many of you listening right now have some younger kids? All right. How many of you then have hardwood floors in your home? Quite a few of you, I imagine. Now, here's a simple question for you. Hardwood floors plus younger, energetic kids equals what? Black marks, wear and tear, multiple different things. The point is, your floors can take a beating, especially if you have those younger kids playing around or even riding their bike around the house. And we don't want to stop our kiddos from having fun, but we also don't want to ruin our floor. So, what do? Go visit Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire. The entire team there will help you select the best floor that fits your needs, perhaps even some Rigid Max flooring that is scratch, dent, and impact resistance that's unmatched in the industry. So what are you waiting for? Get that new floor today from Carpet City Flooring Center in Eau Claire and take comfort in knowing that your new floor can handle those energetic kids. And even, they're not just straight up flooring too, but if you follow their Facebook page, you probably saw the other day too. They were they do some shower work too. So if your shower needs some remodeling, needs updating and such, they can help you out over there too. They do it. They do a lot of stuff at Carpet City Flooring Center. So go stop by and give them a visit. Brandon, maybe the better question is with this fight is, what would you rather watch? Tyson and Paul or Oregon dominate Badger football? Which dumpster fire do you want to watch more? I'll tell you, I'm going to watch Tyson just because,
it's.
But if it gets too gimmicky right away, I'm out.
Oh, and that's it. Like, I'm just like, I'm trying to find a nice way to say this, but also a clean for radio version, because there's a very easy way I could describe this, but I'm not going to because I don't want to get you in trouble.
Yeah.
But yeah, it is. I mean, it's going to draw the crowd. I mean, you've got two very well-known people for very different reasons, but they're very well-known, and there's the intrigue of, okay, well, what's going to happen?
You've got quite the, I don't know if there's been another example besides the movie Rocky Balboa in fake world here, where you've got a older fan base intersecting with a completely new, younger fan base in this thing. Like, I feel like if there was that age group that know who Logan Paul is, are arguing with their parents, their dads or whatever about this fight, because the parents probably like, oh, Tyson, punch out and, Iron Mike, for crying out loud. Then you got the younger kids saying, no, it's that dynamic.
Right.
There,
right.
So.
And that's, I'm sure that's a big draw for this. And it's, I think it's going to be a big draw. I mean, I haven't seen any because it's at AT&T Stadium, right?
Yeah. Well, they have the curtains up.
Okay.
I took that from you, did you?
I didn't know they could do that, but I just didn't think that was allowed. But I would be curious to see like an attendance figure and stuff on it, because obviously I don't think it's going to fill the place up, but still, like, you can still get a very good crowd out of it. But
what celebrities will be there?
Oh boy,
because that's what you talk about with like boxing, right?
Yeah,
and MMA is like,
which
celebrities are going? Is Max Kellerman going to be freaking out? Is he going to be there? Just
And obviously we'll get to our picks later on, which actually is funny. I was going to ask you if that was something we were going to pick.
Oh yeah, man, we are doing this. But I want to know, is Don King going to be there?
Oh boy, Don King's like 90, isn't he?
He's 93
there
years
go,
old. 93 years old. So yeah.
Are Mike Tyson and Don King on speaking terms?
I don't know. He was his former promoter.
Yeah,
so.
one time he was, but I don't know if that's the case anymore because
yeah.
They might have drifted apart for reasons.
Will the cast of The Hangover be there? Will Carlos be there?
Suddenly Carlos is 6'5", 220.
Alan's got to be in his corner, right?
As gimmicky as that would be, I would laugh.
I would laugh.
I would laugh.
Bradley Cooper's probably going to be there, I would think.
Something like that, I didn't even make that connection, but that's a good call.
That could be a prop bet, right?
Oh my gosh.
That really could be a prop.
There are some interesting ones. I will just say that.
Will there be a tiger? A tiger in a cage or loose on the prowl at this. Oh, tons of prop bets we can do. So we may have some fun with that later.
We will. So we'll discuss that a little bit more later.
Yeah. Let's do some local sports roundup
Let's
here. Because I know we're starting to wrap up the football season, we'll know if teams like Rice Lake, Boyceville, Baldwin Woodville, DC Everest, Edgar Stratford, we'll know tonight if they advance to the state title game.
Right. Every semifinal is this evening. So, and around this area, you've got Rice Lake. That's kind of there's a few, like you mentioned, there's a few when they're local. They're not, right in the back, right in the
Mhm.
backyard, but pretty close. I mean, close enough that still, I mean, certainly still warrants the spotlight.
Yeah.
So
we got quite a few listeners, Boyceville too.
yeah,
so
Boyceville.
that's
I mean and then Boyceville's nice thing on Edgar. That's actually a rematch from their third round matchup last year.
okay.
And that game is in Chippewa. So if you're looking for a game close to home, I mean, there's a couple that are going to be close. That's one.
Right.
Otherwise, Stanley, I mean, that will be host to Grantsburg and Bonduel.
Okay.
So if you're looking for that one, Grantsburg knocked off Regis last weekend. So,
Mhm.
but otherwise, mentioned Rice Lake in Division 2. They got West of Pier. That game's in Marshfield, so that's not that far of a drive either. But I mean, Rice Lake, kind of looking back at the games last week, it was almost kind of like it was revenge week in a way, because you look at there are so many rematches.
Mhm.
Rice Lake and New Richmond, Boyceville and Spring Valley. Northwestern and St. Croix Falls. That's not necessarily one right in our backyard, but still another one where you had these two conference foes who played in the regular season. One team won, and then the playoffs, the other team won.
Interesting.
Spring Valley won in the regular season. New Richmond won the regular season.
Mhm.
St. Croix Falls won the regular season, and then all those teams got beat last week.
Mhm.
And so that just kind of goes to show, like, you can look at the regular season, but the regular season, it doesn't always necessarily say. I mean, teams change over the course of a year, so
Right.
but yeah, those are all very interesting matchups. With the Boyceville Edgar one. I mean, last year Boyceville was able to score in Edgar. Not many teams could.
Mhm.
I think for Boyceville, they can throw the ball. They have a really good balanced offense. I think that's going to be important as they, you try to move the ball on Edgar, and also, just defensively. I think you got to get some turnovers. Edgar is very good. They're a balanced team as well. They're not, they don't just have one running back or one player that they kind of run everything through.
Mhm.
I think, even if it's a little bit tougher maybe to stop Edgar, you just get a couple turnovers. Maybe you force a fumble. Maybe you get a pick. Just find ways to give yourself an extra possession or two for that offense.
Mhm. But 8-man football, we've got state championship tomorrow.
We do.
And you're going to be there?
I am. I'm going just to watch.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm just. I got some friends. I know some people are connections to the team, so I'm just going just to watch.
Mhm.
I want. It's just a game I want to go see.
Right.
So it's open
So
Saturday, a rare open Saturday for me this time of year, and I'm
I was
gonna
going
go
to say, yeah. So
make the quick jaunt down to Wisconsin Rapids.
2-1 seeds going at it.
Yep, 2-1 seeds. Really, the 8-player playoffs was kind of chalk a little bit.
Right.
But yeah, with
I know Solon might have been one of the only upsets, but that was a 3-2.
and that was that was kind of a there wasn't too many. I
Right.
mean, I think you can look at the seedings for the 8-player playoffs and say that they kind of got it right.
Mhm.
But yeah, you've got Owen Withy, and they will be making their first trip to state in the 8-player. They've got some state championships under their belt in 11-player. But yeah, they'll be taking on Lena St. Thomas Aquinas, which Lena is north of Green Bay. So obviously it's a co-op.
Mhm.
But Owen Withy picked up the tight win last Friday in Stanley over Highland, 23-21. Lena St. Thomas Aquinas, you mentioned, defeated Northwood Solon Springs, 38-14 in Rhinelander. And for Owen Withy, it's keep doing what they do. I mean, I kind of brought this up last week, and I say this very complimentary, that in some ways they kind of just remind me of like Iowa football, where you know what they're going to do, and the years they've got the really good talent, they're going to be very good at it. And I think this is one of those years.
Interesting.
They won what I believe to be the best conference in the state with the North Central East Conference, which also has McDonald and Gilman and Thorpe. And I mean, they emerged from that. They had,
because Thorpe was at state last year, right?
They were. Thorpe was at state last year. They lost to Florence in a great game. So I think down the stretch, it helped Owen Withy to have close games with Gilman, with Clayton. After the first 5-6 weeks of the year, all their games were blowouts. They were up 35 points by halftime in all those games. But eventually you need to be tested. And those teams were all good teams. They were good, solid state-ranked teams. And then they go into the postseason. They pick up some wins. They beat Port Edwards. They beat McDonald. And then last week they beat Highland. So, this is an Owen Withy team that you know what they're going to do. Like, you know what they're going to do, to the point where if you've been watching this team long enough, you know the exact plays they're going to run. But they sequence it so well and they execute it so well. That's what they're about. That doesn't mean you can stop it. It's, I've talked with so many, be it McDonald coaches or Thorpe coaches or even Robert Rosemeyer Gilman over the years about Owen Withy. And, the story is always kind of the same. It's like, you kind of know what they're going to do, but it doesn't mean you can stop it. That's just how good they are at times, especially this year at it.
Right.
They're going to run the ball. They're going to be fundamentally sound. They're not going to make mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to require you to play a very good game to beat them.
Maybe old school Badgers too.
Yeah, that'd be another really good example. Those Barry Alvarez Badgers teams, where and I remember a few weeks ago after Owen Withy beat McDonald, talking to Coach Taylor Laubio kind of about the team and about the season. And, that was a game where they threw the ball twice, and he kind of joked, he's like, and it pained me to throw it twice.
Nice.
They were both completed passes, play action passes for big plays, but he's just like, that's just not what they want to do. They want to be able to run the ball. They want to control the clock. They want to put their defense in a good spot by not leaving them out on the field for a long time.
Right.
And those are all things that have worked for them.
That's an old school football mentality. Because I'm thinking even Lombardi's Packers, that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
It's
and now, obviously, kind of the more modern view of football is it's not necessarily about time of possession; it's just about plays, like the amount of plays you run. Like especially in college, where teams running up tempo, it's like, well, why do you do that? You might lose time of possession. It's true, but teams don't necessarily look at time of possession. They just look at how many plays do you run, and when you run up tempo, if you run 70 or 80 plays. People view that as being successful more than, well, you're keeping the other team from running plays.
Yeah. Texter here says, Grandman Mike, in the 8-man championship game, both teams combined for a total of 48 passing attempts all season long.
That's awesome.
So.
Yeah. So that if you're going to that game, like make sure you get there early, because just the way it goes, it might not be a very long game, and that's it's just going to put an emphasis on every possession, and I like that.
Yep. Absolutely.
And that was even kind of last year with Florence when they won. Like they were a very run-based team. And the thing I do like, I like a lot of things about 8-man, but there are a few different ways you can do it. You can run. You can be a run team. You can be a pass team. You can be a bat. Like for the most part, you see teams either it really is kind of like high school football, or it is. I'm sorry. 11-player football, where teams are either very run heavy or they're kind of spread.
Yeah.
That's why, a team like McDonald was always kind of unique to me, because they run I formation, which I have never seen. Like, you don't even see that with 11-player teams anymore.
Right.
It's kind of one way or the other. So it's just, I appreciate kind of the uniqueness of it.
Well, I was going to ask then, does that allow, do you think, for 8-man football, maybe for teams and coaches to be a little more creative?
Yes. Yeah.
In that aspect.
Certainly. Because there's just certain things you can do off it. And then there's certain rules when it comes to who's eligible and stuff like that, so that you can kind of get a little creative with. But yet, you look at a team like Owen Withy, where I mentioned they're doing the same thing they've been doing for 10, 20, 30 years, because they were able to adapt. And I remember this conversation I had last year with Thorpe's coach, Katie Stokes, about when they were going to state, and kind of about 3-4 years ago, when a lot of teams in this area they came to that fork in the road of, okay, 11-player football, 8-player football, what do we do? And Gilman did it a few years before, but Owen Withy, Thorpe, Cornell, Lake Holcomb, a lot of these teams, they kind of had that decision to make, just because the numbers weren't there for a viable 11-player team. And Katie Stokes had said, he goes, look, we wanted to do what's right for the kids. He goes, but at the end of the day, I looked at Gilman and I saw, well, if Robin Rosemeyer is doing this, and I looked at Owen Withy and I said, if Terry Laubie's doing this, Terry Laubie's in the Hall of Fame. Robin Rosemeyer is going to be there one day. If I look at these guys and say they're doing this, well, it's probably a pretty good idea for me to do it too, because these guys are pretty smart. Like they understand. And I have a lot of respect for coaches like that weren't hung up on the idea of when 8-player football first started, there was a lot of kind of negative, stigma to it. Yeah. Oh, it's not football, blah, blah, blah. And that's kind of gone away. Like you're seeing that if you're a good football player, like colleges will find you. That was the case 25 years ago with Jim Leonard, where, there was at one point, it was crazy to think like there's this kid from Flambeau and he's going to go play for the Badgers. Okay. And he became an All-American. Like if you're a good football player, especially now with as much as you can put yourself out there, college teams will find you.
Yes.
So that's not really a deterrent.
Right.
And I just have a lot of respect for these kind of established veteran coaches for not just kind of resting on their laurels and saying, well, this is the way we've always done it, so this is the way it's going to be. Like
not ego, right?
No, it's understanding, hey, things change, we can change, but we can still do this, but just do it a little bit different. And I think that's a really good way to look at things. Not just for football, but just for life in general.
Well, and at that point too, they're allowing their programs to continue at that point.
Right.
Too,
and
right?
You come to that fork in the road where, you have two options. Either you go 8-player and you need fewer players for 8-player to work. You just have fewer players on the field, or you have to co-op. Like Holcomb and Cornell had what I would consider to be a successful football co-op from 20 2012 to 2020. They were consistently in the playoff picture. They would win 5-6 games a year. That's good. Like, you're giving your kids a good experience there. But the opportunity to kind of keep that individual identity. Otherwise you'd be looking at like a Owen Withey-Thorpe co-op or an Owen Withey Greenwood co-op, and people would get behind it. But there's just something different about when you're able to kind of keep your own individual identity. That was kind of something McDonald ran into when they went a player versus, well, do the players just go across the street, maybe play it for Chippewa? They wanted to keep their own individual identity, and I can understand that. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all sports fans. We root for laundry.
Right.
Especially like college sports, it's very territorial. If you're a Badger fan or you're a Marquette fan, it's because of the area you're from.
Right. Yeah. Or the school you went to. Yeah. So
we're all, as sports fans, we're all territorial in some way.
Exactly. Did you see how my Medford Raiders lost?
I didn't see it. I mean, it shows a shootout.
So I didn't see it, but I heard what happened. You ready for this?
No.
So this is from our good buddy Matt Fry. This is because he covers it.
Oh, yeah.
But, it was a high. Yeah, you said shootout. Final score was 51-48. Medford had the lead, and then as Lacrosse Logan's quarterback is getting hit, he lofted a 13-yard touchdown pass with 21 seconds left.
Oh wow! So it was really one. I mean, not literally, but pretty much one of those games where whoever has the ball last.
Yeah.
And because I had seen the updates, and it was just. Yeah, it was like a ping pong game, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
Yep. So I was like, dang it. So, we also have state swimming though going on, right?
We got state swimming, Division II tonight, Division I tomorrow in Waukesha.
Okay.
Number of local swimmers from the area are going to be down there. So yeah, that's kind of between that and football are usually kind of the last two sports of the fall to wrap up. And we've already got winter practice underway. We got girls basketball, boys and girls hockey.
Yep.
We got gymnastics underway. I mean, certainly those are all sports we're going to be talking about a bunch here in the coming weeks and months.
Absolutely.
But, one season just kind of rolls into the other.
I got there's a good piece by Brandon, again, another one at chippewa.com. But, with swimming, you talked about Evelyn Arnold, what she's competing in the shortest and the longest.
Right. And the events that say the 50 freestyle and the 500 freestyle, which is unique. I mean, she's the only Division I swimmer that's doing that. And it's kind of like, well, you may be thinking like, well, why is it like, well, running the 100-meter dash, then also running the 2-mile,
right?
Like it doesn't happen.
That's a gap.
Yeah, and they're not that, like, you're running the shortest race and the longest race. Usually you're kind of setting yourself up to be better in one or the other. But I think that just kind of shows that the kind of the talent she has. Where she won sectional championships in both of those events. We'll see how it goes tomorrow, but that's just such a unique thing that just doesn't happen often.
Right. So got that. I was gonna. You already touched on basketball and such too. So WIAC wise, it's kind of a big couple days here for the WIAC. So first of all, men's soccer for the Blue Golds, they start their national run, national tournament today. They're hosting up at Simpson Field. So if you want to go check at 1 p.m. Taking on Lake Forest College, and every year they've advanced further and further. So hopefully, and we chatted with a couple of the players over there in our latest Rolling with the Golds podcast. We've also got the final football game for the Blue Golds. They're going to be at Carson Park tomorrow, taking on Whitewater. But then not far down the road on 94, Stout has a big game where they're taking on Platteville, and if Stout wins, they get to share the conference title.
Yeah, it's crazy that it could be like a 4-way.
Yeah.
Like they're still excited.
It is. I mean, it's and the team that's got the best right number one is Platteville. So they're 5-1 WIAC, but you got Lacrosse that's 4-2. Oshkosh is 4-2. Stout's 4-2 up there. So, but Stout for a team I think has surprised a lot of people this year.
Right. And it's a team that it's so tough to break through into that top echelon of the WIAC because we know the programs are going to be up there, and it's changed a little bit over the years, but it's going to be Whitewater. Oshkosh has been up there many times. Like you mentioned lacrosse. Lacrosse has been River Falls has had a good year. Like it's just like it's so tough to get that upward mobility. But you got to give a lot of credit to that program for being able to do that.
Right.
Like, look, you're going into the last week of the regular season with a chance to win a conference championship. Any football coach in the country, wherever you're coaching college football, would take that.
Exactly. And Stout's coming off that win against Oshkosh too. I mean, they've had some premier wins this year,
right? And having
45-42,
and having that
Oshkosh.
game at home. I mean, I have a feeling, Williams Stadium is going to be. I have to imagine they're going to be pretty raucous for that.
Oh yeah, and they should be.
Right.
Every student at Stout should be going over there.
Right. It's during the day. You may have other stuff going on at night, but come on.
You'd rather watch that one than the Badger Oregon football game that night. Let's just say that.
So you sound like you're not picking that upset.
No. I'm surprised the point spread last I saw was as close as it was. It was like 2 touchdowns. I'm hammering over on that. So, all right, good stuff, man. Local sports roundup. Our good buddy Brandon Berg knocking it out of the park as always. We'll take a quick break here. We're just rolling on through here this morning. We'll finish up the second hour. I'm excited to talk some Brewers with Brandon because Brandon did some homework, even though I didn't ask him to do some homework. He did some major homework. He has got what he thinks the Brewers' plan should be. Right there. He's holding it up right now if you're watching the video stream. What's on your wish list this year? If you said maybe a new home or maybe even a piece of land in the middle of the woods to escape to, you are in luck because Woods and Water Realty has your wish list already available. Just visit woodsandwater.com to check out all the listings available for homes, cabins, parcels of land, you name it. And the team of realtors at Woods and Water Realty are ready to help you find that new dream home or piece of land to build your future dream home on. Realtors from Woods and Water Realty are with you every step of the way, making the process of home buying super, super simple. So start looking through that wish list right now at woodsandwater.com. Speaking of like hunting and that, it is deer season. I know a lot of you this time next week, a week from today, maybe getting set to go to deer camp or such, or maybe you're already up there. A week from tomorrow, it'll begin. And once you get that deer, you might be asking yourself, what do I do with it afterwards? Where do I tag it? Tag it to our good friends at Mike's Star Market in Eau Claire. Whether you're looking to get some bacon made, some steaks, or snack sticks, Mike's has options for anyone when it comes to getting your deer processed. And if you have a full freezer and you want to donate your deer to those in need, Mike's Star Market is your deer donation site. Best of luck this deer hunting season. Remember, once you get that deer, bring it on into Mike's Star Market, because you know you will be getting the best quality products in return. Brandon, I'll just straight up ask you. You don't have to make your prediction. Who's got the better shot to pull off the upset? Badger basketball or Badger football?
I would say Badger basketball.
That's where I'm going with too, I think. Not saying I'm picking it.
No, I don't know. Like, for Badger football, like, it's going to be, I think there's a few things. Number one, Oregon's going to have to get bit by the whole traveling across multiple time zones, playing in, colder weather kind of thing, which even still, I don't think it's as big of a deal facing the Badgers as it might have been, 5 years ago.
Right.
Because of the style of play and stuff like that. But, there's just a lot of things that have to go right for Wisconsin tomorrow. And I think fewer that would have to go right tonight, even though there's still several things. Arizona's a good team. But,
I feel like too with basketball, it's a little bit of an unknown yet what kind of team they got, right? I mean, yes, they're off to a 3-0 start.
Right. It might be a little bit different if this game was taking place in January.
Right. Yeah. Where we got a better feel of where these teams are. Even Arizona too, because remember last year they were highly ranked, and they kind of fell off a little bit and that too. So there's still a little bit of an unknown when it comes to hoops here. So plus, you got the magic of the Final Four teams coming into town. And
fair play to the Badgers for honoring the Final Four team and Bo Ryan when they're playing Arizona, who they beat 2 years in a row to go to the Final Four.
The only thing missing is Sean Miller and the
sweatiness
of Sean Miller. So, but no, I would agree with you. I would go with Badger basketball if I had to pick between the two. So, but I think I'm curious to see how Badger basketball matches up, because Tanji, has been off to a good start for the hoops team. So I'm curious, to see this team get going up against better competition.
This is the first measuring stick game. The first 3 games, they were games that they should have won, and they did.
Yep.
You're not gonna be mad about that. They did what they were supposed to do.
Yep.
But this is one where now, this and there'll be some. Let's just say the schedule picks up from here.
Right. Exactly. So I know we got Marquette in action against Maryland tonight. Then you got Marquette Purdue next Monday or Tuesday, I think it is. So that should be a good one too. So
starting to get going. And one of the things too, as we get closer to Thanksgiving, I always enjoy is around Thanksgiving, there are some different tournaments and stuff like that. It takes me a little bit to fully kind of get in on college basketball. And I really like college basketball. It's not that I don't like it. It's just that those first few games, there are some teams this week they had the Champions Classic or whatever. And I watched a little bit of some of those games, but it just takes me a little bit to get going because there's just so much going on right now.
Yep.
I almost have to get into that college basketball mindset.
Exactly. Yeah. To me, it's almost kind of like after the Thanksgiving tournaments.
Yeah.
Is when it kind of
when you get Wisconsin, Marquette, when obviously conference play starts, that kind of stuff.
Kind of like beginning of December-ish is when it goes. But also too, you do have those matchups earlier on in the season, like Kentucky Duke the other nights, some of those games too. So, but are you ready to do cream of crop, or do you want to wait till the next hour?
We can do it right now.
All right, let's do cream of the crop so we don't forget, because we got it busy. What do you got, man? Cream of the crop.
I'm going to go back to something I'm sure you chatted with Justice about on Monday, and that's just going to go Eau Claire Manual volleyball. First state championship of any kind for that program. Really just a good year overall, obviously, for the area. Regis was runner-up. Aaron won Division III championship.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, you can even throw them in there if you want to. But, for Manual, that was one of those teams, early on, you could just tell, okay, this team's really good. When they were, at the Diocese tournament, it's always kind of an interesting measuring stick, and they beat McDonald. They beat like they're beating all these other really good teams. It's just like, oh, like you kind of see how good they can be, and they just went and they took care of business. Like I appreciate that. Like the fact that they just, there are some times where maybe it could have went a little bit sideways for them, but they just, they stayed focused, and that's just a really cool thing. Like when you win it's always cool when you see somebody win their first championship.
Yeah.
Because you can just tell, like, it always means something to everybody, but like when you win it for the first time, it's just always fun when you see different schools kind of getting that hype. So Lancers, that's for you.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I'm going a little bit of a different route on this. I'm going with the basketball. Because ball don't lie. I'm going back to the Bucks game, that final one where they called a foul on Giannis on the lob pass, out of bounds lob pass there, and Hollins missed the 2 free throws just had to make one to win it, and it goes in overtime and the Bucks win. The basketball, the ball don't lie. The basketball.
It's like how you phrase that. The basketball.
The basketball. Ball don't lie. That's my cream of the crop. That was an awful call.
It was.
It was. And thankfully, the ball didn't lie at that point. So,
yeah.
But the fact, and I know they were shorthanded too, but it was like, oh crap, Pistons were going to lose too.
But still, yeah. And that's just one, like, a November game against the Pistons shouldn't have some angst behind it, but that one did. And it was just, you understand why, but it was nice to see them just kind of pull it out. Like, I think maybe, we'll see when obviously they start playing better teams again, but like maybe they're starting to see a little bit of like, okay, you got to incorporate these younger guys.
Yeah.
Like, and not just like, oh, well, they'll come off the bench and play 6-7 minutes. No, like you got to get them involved. You got to kind of, and hopefully that's just something they're kind of seeing here.
You know what is not the cream of the crop though is the Eastern Conference outside the top 2, because Orlando is the 3rd seed. They're 1 game above 500.
Good news for the Bucks.
That's what's helping out the Bucks right now.
Obviously Cleveland putting some early distance on. We'll see how that goes. But
so like the Bucks right now are the 12th seed. They are 2.5 back from the 3 seed. For
there you
as
go.
bad as they are,
thank
you to the rest of the Eastern Conference for being just as bad.
Thank you for being a friend.
I got another cream of the crop. Josh from Colfax, who texted in, just want to say best morning sports talk show out there.
Yeah.
Cream of the crop, Josh from Colfax. Early leader for our free burger from Princeton Valley. All right, 2 hours in. We got one more to go. We're going to break down some Brewers offseason plans. He's even got it on yellow paper, handwritten too. That's coming up next. All right, final hour on this Friday morning, a little TGIF. We've got more football talk coming at you as Packers coming off of the bye week here and taking on the Bills. Minnesota's got Titans, man. So we'll do some picks coming up here at the back end. We'll get back to keep sending your keys to victory, your key matchups, and all that good stuff over there too via the texting line 715-830-1912. Even though it is a football Friday, there is baseball stuff going on. And let's say Brewers have been racking up some offseason awards. Last night, another one. William Contreras named to the All MLB first team, which is fairly new in the last few years, right?
Yeah,
So,
and kind of following in what we see in other sports, All NBA, first team, All NFL.
I like it.
Yeah,
I
do too. I do too.
We'll find out more awards next week, like if Pat Murphy's going to get Manager of the Year. He is a finalist. Jackson Churio is a finalist for Rookie of the Year, but I think that's more of the uphill climb.
Yeah, that's going to be a little bit tougher, just because the grouping is with him, Paul Skeens, and Jackson Merrill. Yep. Those are all. All three of those in many years could be the winner.
Exactly.
It's just one of those years where I think it's Merrill.
Oh, it's over Skeens?
I think so.
Okay,
but
how much do you think is going to factor in the popularity though too of Paul Skeens? Do you think that factors into the vote?
It's voted on, so you never know.
Mm-hmm.
But I would go Merrill. Let's put it this way: if I had a vote, I would go Merrill.
Okay.
But
why don't you have a vote, by the way? Can't you sign up for that?
I don't know.
You should. I think they give it to anybody. They give baseball writers ballots to anybody. So
they certainly do for Hall of Fame when you see some of those votes.
I think if anything, it would be a major upset if Pat Murphy doesn't win next week.
Yes, yeah, that's the one. Because remember, they vote after the regular season.
Mm-hmm.
So Mendoza from the Mets, who might have maybe got some more because of the run they went on, they voted before they went on that run.
Yep. Mike Schilt is the other one from
Mike
the
Schilt,
National.
yeah, with Padres.
So, but with the Brewers plan, you got some rumors, you got some rumblings. There's stuff out there. Brandon had texted me the other days, and you said Bruku Ball.
Bruku Ball, the website. Every year they'll have a little thing where basically they ask people what's your offseason plan? And they kind of have a rough outline that you kind of follow. Here's the different things, and obviously you try to keep it realistic. The Brewers aren't signing Juan Soto and bringing back Corbin Burns,
right? Which, by the way, I don't know if you probably saw this the other day. MLB.com had a write up the second best free agent outside of Juan Soto, and it was voted on by executives. Corbin and Willie, and I'm just like, man,
Just think if a team had both of those guys,
right? Exactly. So, anyways, didn't mean to cut you off. So, you did some work on this thing. Not only do you just have the players,
not as much as you'd think, but still,
but you put the salaries next to it.
Well, that's part of it,
right? But that's what I'm giving you credit for. Don't be humble here, man. You got position players, you've got pitchers, you've got the salaries next to it, you've got a couple trades, you've got a couple new players on there. You went into the depths here, and there's one thing on there. How do you want to reveal the position? Go by position groups first a little bit.
Sure.
Okay. Because I do have a question on one of them for you.
Okay, well, and I'll be honest. One of them kind of changed.
Oh,
I did make one tweak.
Okay,
so we'll see.
All right, what do you got? So let's start with the position players.
Well,
or do you want to go by groups? How do you want to do this?
I honestly don't know because there's just a couple different things here, but
So we know Reese Hoskins is gonna be back.
Yeah, because there's certain things when it came to player options and stuff, and I'll tell you what. I'll do it this way, very simply. There were two player options that were picked up. Reese Hoskins picked his up. That was going to happen. We knew that. Willie Peralta's team option, which I think was $8 million, was picked up by the team. Not surprisingly. that makes sense. Freddie, sorry.
Yeah.
Willie Peralta, I don't think he'd be worth $8 million these days. Sorry, Willie. But wow.
That was a throwback.
That was. And then otherwise, you got some guys that are, you can be offered arbitration or you're just a free agent.
Mm-hmm.
Brewers I offered arbitration for were Yoel Payamps, Eric Haas, William Contreras, Trevor McGill, Nick Mears.
Mm-hmm.
And for the price, I just went by MLB Trade Rumors website has their arbitration estimation. I just went with that.
Yep.
Because that's, it might be a little bit different. Sometimes a little bit higher, sometimes a little lower, but I figure that's a good rough estimate. So those guys, let's put it this way: those people are all back. People that were not, their options declined on Frankie Montas, Wade Miley, Devin Williams, but as we know, he's still under team control for another year.
Yep.
Colin Ray,
So even though he's on waivers?
Yes.
Colin Ray? Okay.
Yeah. Hobie Milner, Aaron Savali, Jake Bowers, Bryce Wilson. These are all moves that essentially already happened.
Right.
Just for formality, I'm saying this is also what I would have done.
Okay,
too.
so that's where I was just
So this is all.
here.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
got it.
Yep.
Got it.
So far, nothing crazy. I mean, really, there is nothing too crazy here. And my thinking here with this is, I will say this: based on the math, my opening day salary is down a little bit from last year.
Okay.
Or from 2024, and down much more from 2023 and 2022. I do think that there's going to be an impact with the
TV.
With the TV. I do. And keep in mind that the Brewers' opening day salary this year was $116 million. Last year was 126. 2022 was the high water mark, was 138. So it was down a little bit. So maybe it won't go down so much, but it just may not go back up right away. Is kind of my thinking. So that is something I considered to went into this thinking. So, I mean, you look around. I mean, a lot of the people you think are back. So, I mean, I don't know if I necessarily have, and maybe I can just go position by position at the end, but like a lot of the people you expect to be back are going to be back. My kind of thought process with this it came down to kind of two main things. Number one, what's the fate of Devin Williams?
Yeah.
Number two, how do you try to find ways to upgrade this team without spending a lot?
Yeah.
Because realistically, that's probably how they're going to approach this. So I've said before that I think Devin Williams is going to be on the move. And I even thought that before, game 3 of the first round of the playoffs happened. Like that bared no, that did not change my opinion whatsoever. That did not strengthen my opinion. I just felt like that's just how the Brewers operate.
Did it kind of tip the scales though too when they declined the option so that they could get arbitrated because it's going to be cheaper for him?
Yeah.
Sort of thing?
Could be. Yeah. I mean, I just think that, either way, that was probably the right business move to make. And my thinking is with trading Devin Williams is if you're going to trade him to maximize your return, you may need to package someone else with him.
Okay.
Because, Devin Williams, we know, is a really good reliever, but he's only got 1 year before he has free agency. So teams may not give up a ton for that. So I looked at, what's the position of strength of the Brewers? It's outfield.
Yeah.
So realistically, Yelich isn't getting traded. Jackson Schreider's not getting traded. So you had 3 other outfielders: Sal Frelick, Blake Perkins, Garrett Mitchell. One of those guys, you probably could package. And I made 2 trades. And the trades are graded by a website called Baseball Trade Values, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a website where, based on talent, ability, contract, control, it assigns a value to a player. And so that kind of helps. Like, it's always so tough when you're thinking about baseball trades because you're dealing with a lot of times like prospects and stuff. But in both of these cases, my trades are actually considered a little bit of overpays. But I felt like that was probably a more realistic way to do it because there was a few of them. There's a few values that I just didn't agree with, so I didn't trade. Like, for some reason, they had some decent value on a guy like Elvis Peguero, which I didn't really see. So I just didn't use that because I kind of almost felt like that'd be cheating a little bit.
Got it.
So in my hypothetical trade here, it was Devin Williams and Blake Perkins to the Yankees.
Okay.
For Clark Schmidt. Who's Clark Schmidt? Clark Schmidt's the starting pitcher. Clark Schmidt he pitched in the postseason for the team. He was probably their 3rd or 4th starter. Pitcher with 3 years of team control left. And I mean, look at his career numbers. They're not eye-popping. He's got a 3.95 ERA and more than 300 innings pitched. Struck out close to 10 batters an inning this past year. That's a solid year. But he's someone that's got 3 years of control left. Arbitration. In arbitration now, projected to make about $3.5 million. To me, that was a better route than, say, picking up Aaron Savali's option for $8 million.
Yeah.
I mean, these are the kind of things that the Brewers just tend to do.
Right.
And also with these trades, you got to look at it on the other, like, it's not just hey, how does this help the Brewers? Would the other team do this trade? Yankees, I feel like they could use more bullpen help. I mean, they were throwing Jake Cousins out there for high leverage innings in the World Series. Blake Perkins, a defensive first center fielder where when you've got, we know the other outfielders they've got.
They're big humans.
They're large humans, but to have an elite defensive center fielder, that's kind of the thought process when they traded for Trent Grisham. But, Blake Perkins, you can get to, who I think maybe a little bit better at this stage of the game.
Blake Perkins might have made that catch in center field.
He might have.
If you know what I'm
I
talking
do
about,
think that is
Yankees.
something the Yankees would consider. You have a center field, a guy that can play center field, hit at the bottom of your lineup, but he's there for his defense. That allows you to play Judge in a corner, or if you have to play Giancarlo Stanton,
Mhm.
you can play him in a corner. Like, it just helps. I just think this is a deal that works for both teams.
Mhm.
So immediately there's a start. There's another one of your starters, Clark Schmidt. The other trade I made, as I was looking to, I still wanted to try to find a way to, I would say, upgrade this defense, but also kind of help the offense after Willie Adames has left. I mean,
Yeah.
I think Willie Adames is gone. And earlier this week, saw a report that the Rays had put were fielding trade offers for a couple players. Their first baseman and their second baseman, Yandy Diaz, Brandon Lau. Now, initially, I think in the picture, the first kind of run through I had sent to you, I had traded for Brandon Lau.
Yep.
But I traded that. I changed that.
Okay,
That's
what
what
I was going to ask.
Okay,
about.
I changed that.
So, all right.
And my thinking was, and I kind of thought about this, but with Andy, I really like Yandy Diaz. Like, he's a player, like he's just a player I really like. And and he had a higher value than Brandon Lau. Part of the reason I traded for Brandon Lau was just like, okay, well, it seems like a very Brewers thing to do would be to trade for a guy that plays second base, is an offensive second baseman, then play him at first base. That just seems like a Brewers thing.
Yeah.
But I just like, you know what? I'm gonna do kind of the quote unquote easier thing. I'm gonna trade for Yandy Diaz.
Okay.
He's got 2 years of control left. He's coming off a bit of a down year compared to 2023, but he's still a good offensive player. Like, I think he would fit in very well. And based on Yandy's value, which are still, and he's got team options that are pretty reasonable for this year, next year. So there's value there, even though he is a little bit older. Traded Tyler Black, who has a fair amount of value, and Brock Wilken, who's a corner infielder, played Double-A last year.
Yep.
He had his struggles, but my thinking there is, look, thinking about this from the Rays' point of view, look, the Rays it was just announced yesterday, they're going to be playing at the Yankee Spring Training Home. Like, if they're realistically fielding offers for these guys, they may view 2025 as, okay, is this the year we take a step back?
Especially because if you're going to be playing in a smaller stadium,
You're not, the revenue,
revenue.
like, maybe they see and they say, look, we're just going to, maybe take a step back. At the very least, we're going to go with more of a youth movement. There's a pathway for, look, at this point, Tyler Black should be in the majors. He should get an opportunity somewhere. If it's not Milwaukee, then and Milwaukee doesn't think it's going to be Milwaukee, then you trade him.
Right.
Because it doesn't do him any good to play AAA anymore. He's got too much AAA at bats under his belt. Like, he has nothing left to prove there. And Brock Wilken, I dealt out of a position of what I believe to be strength in the minors. I mean, he's coming off a tough year, so you're kind of selling low on him a little bit. But according to the baseball trade values website, this was still considered an overpay. But the Brewers also have other corner infield prospects that I think in a year's time could be knocking on the door. So I'm fine doing it.
So let me ask a question that you're probably going to get to then.
Yeah.
So if you make that trade, is Yandy at third or first?
Yandy's at first.
So
Yandy's at first because Yandy played third earlier in his career. He's not playing third anymore.
Okay.
So my feeling is you're going to rotate that DH spot between 3 players: Yelich, Hoskins, Yandy Diaz. So mostly Yelich and Hoskins.
Okay. So I mean, you're talking about maybe potentially 2 high-priced guys not playing every day.
That's true. Yeah.
Okay.
That's something that you may run into here, and
because it just seems like Jackson was more comfortable in left field.
And he did. But in my thought process was that he would be right field. Even though it's weird because even though Sal Frelick went a Gold Glove in right field, like,
right,
I mean, I guess he could bounce back and forth a little bit.
Right.
He could play left and right. I mean, maybe if Yelich is DH and then you have Cherry on left and you have Frelick and right, because whatever. But to kind of close the book on Yandy Diaz, 2 years left under his current, under control. Career 288 hitter, on base percentage 373. The big thing, though, and you'll see this with my third base plan too, a career 311 hitter against lefties, OPS close to 900.
Yeah.
I've talked about this so many times over the years, but I want to try to find, and even though last year the Brewers OPS against lefties was like middle of the road, they were like 14th. So it's not like they were bad. It just always feels like they are.
Yeah.
So really then the other big move is like, what about third base? Because under my plan, Bryce Turang's playing second, Joey Ortiz sliding over to short.
Okay. You did change that then after
I did. A little bit. Yes.
Yep.
A little bit. And I just think Joey Ortiz's offensive profile fits better shortstop. And I would rather just still be strong up the middle. I think it's important to kind of retain that double play combination.
Yep.
So what do you do at third base? Now, as I said, I'm not looking to spend a lot of money. I didn't make any more trades, but there are 2 players I identified that are out of their free agents. I'm like, individually, they're not. I don't think anyone's gonna jump out of their seat and say, "Yeah, signing them." But I think together they could be. The biggest thing I think is they can raise the floor of the offense.
Okay.
Which I think is important. Number 1, 2 free agents. Number 1, first of all, Jose Iglesias from the Mets.
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
He had a really good year. He had like 320, 330, whatever it was. He's not going to do that again. He's 30. He's going to be 35 years old on opening day. He has made a career out of being a utility guy that's bounced around, known for playing good defense. He's played primarily short, but he played last, second, and third base this past year with the Mets because obviously they have Francisco Lindor.
Why do I keep thinking Jerry Harrison Jr. when you're describing this?
It's not terrible, but to me, here's what he brings to the table that I like. Last year he was talked about very highly as being a good clubhouse guy for that Mets team. Obviously, if Willie Adames is leaving, there's kind of a bit of a clubhouse presence that could be used.
Yep.
Maybe this is someone that could sign there. He can play second, short, and third. It's important to have that coverage. A career 280 hitter or 283 hitter, 323 on base. Doesn't hit for much power. Like there's not much extra base skill in there. He's not gonna steal a bunch of bases. But another thing, career 300 hitter against lefties on base, or OPS against lefties is 779. Someone you can play against lefties is going to help. So who do you pair with him? Because his numbers against righties aren't bad, but like you could do a little better. Another similar guy, a guy I've always really liked that just is very just like boringly decent at offense. Donovan Solano played last year with the Padres. He is a career 279 hitter, 335 on base, OPS 716, which is right around league average. Hits lefties a little bit better than that. Has played first, second, and third base. The last 6 years, he's hit at least 280. Now it's kind of an empty average because a bit like Iglesias, he's not going to hit a lot of home runs. He's not going to steal many bases. That's fine. I'm looking to raise the floor, knowing that there are younger prospects like a Mike Bovee, who in a year's time, they might be knocking on the door. I am using these, basically these 2 veterans are combined to make what I believe can be one average to above average player. But if this guy is, whoever it is hitting 8th or 9th in your lineup should be pretty good. That's kind of my thought process. Both of them played solid defense. They're not going to get you any trouble there. Also, the other thing to consider too is if Bryce Terang gets some days off, which he will, it's usually going to be against lefties. So chances are both of these guys could be out there against lefties many times. And both of these guys last year made the league minimum. They made about $800,000. My thought was between the two, I think I put Iglesias down for like $3 million. It could be a little bit, I don't know, because maybe with the good year he had, like maybe he could get a little more than that. But Donovan Solano was the same thing. I went for $1.5 million. To me, a big draw for these guys coming to Milwaukee is, look, you can be a starter or you can get a lot of at bats on a contending team.
Right.
Like you can come in here and you're going to be a part of this. Also, Solano can play first base too if that comes to that. But I'm looking at more for second and third. So that's kind of those are kind of my big moves for it. Now, as I mentioned, in salary, this is with everyone I've got here, it comes to about $103 million. You add in about roughly $12.5 million for the buyouts, the deferments, which keep in mind there are still Ryan Braun and Lorenzo Cain that are being paid. They will get checks this year from deferred payments.
Yep.
And as I said, that puts you about $115.5 million. I unofficially $115.65. But this is a team that I think, and I've got the list here of everybody, like this is a team I think can come to spring training and win the Central again.
Interesting.
And you look at the breakdown, and I even broke down like, oh, here's what the lineup could look like, righties and lefties. Like, first of all, versus lefties, I really like it. Because you've got guys in the middle of the lineup like Diaz, Contreras. Rhys Hoskins has hit lefties well over the year. I think we could see a better version of Rhys Hoskins next year just because he's another year removed from the surgery. So, but this is an offense that I would feel coming into the first day of spring training, assuming, health and everything, like this is an offense that I think could do something. And it's a little bit risky to kind of buy on a couple of older veterans like that because once you get to that age, like any year, you could just fall off the map.
Right.
But the investment's not super high. And I just think that the risk is worth the reward there because they've both been solid bats where, like I said, if they're hitting 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th in your lineup, like that's not bad.
Right.
Like you can win with that.
Yeah. So what's the starters?
Freddie?
Well,
yeah, I mean, the starters would be Freddie, Tobias Myers, Clark Schmidt. I had DL Hall in the rotation.
Okay. Nope.
And Brandon Woodruff. Like, I do think Brandon Woodruff is going to be a bit of a ramp up.
Okay.
It's not going to be like he's, from day one, he is.
Because it is a bit of an unknown.
So that's more of a season long thing.
Okay.
Bullpen, Trevor McGill, I think is your closer.
Yep.
That's fine. He did well in it last year. Aaron Ashby, he's another one of those that could be either. I said bullpen.
Yeah.
But
seemed like he thrived a little bit more last year.
I thought so too. Yoel Pyaps, Nick Mears, Jared Koenig, Brian Hudson. A guy that, kind of we forgot about a little bit, but Adner Uribe. Maybe he gets, we just chalk up last year's kind of a lost year. And then for your long reliever, I got Carlos Rodriguez, who pitched a little bit less. But I mean, that could be anybody. That's not a big deal.
There's one name missing. Gasser. Robert Gasser.
He's going to be out for a while yet.
Okay.
Because of the injury.
Injury?
Yeah,
Okay.
he's still going to be working his way back.
Okay.
So your position players, I mean, your catchers are Contreras and Eric Haas.
Yep.
Knowing that, Jackson Carroll, who missed all last year with an injury, is one of their top prospects at catcher. He'll be at AAA. Like, by the end of the year, he could be the backup catcher. But you want to give that would give him time after missing a whole year to just play AAA. Don't worry about it. Yandy Diaz first, Turang second, Ortiz third. Said the combination of Solano and Iglesias the third. Reese Hoskins is your other backup infielder. Your outfielders Yelich, Churio, Frelick, Mitchell. And I said Isaac Collins, who played on the team last year. But and keep in mind, this also offers room for because you're going to see guys get invites to spring training.
Right.
Basically you get a chance. You see it a lot with veteran guys. And there could be some bullpen guys out there that the Brewers identify like, hey, maybe this guy's got something, not unlike they did last year with the guys like Brian Hudson and Jared Koenig.
Right.
That are just off my radar. That's fine. I mean, there's movement there. But I mean, to me, this was realistic because, again, the salary, because of the moves, and it's something that I would feel confident going into the year that, hey, this Brewers team.
Right. Think so? Positive?
I think so.
This division's kind of weird for me because I almost feel like, are the Reds going to be buyers this offseason with Francona coming in?
I kind of wonder that too. And I think they could. First of all, I thought that was a really good move. I like Terry Francona. I think I've said this before, I think he's one of the best managers in baseball, especially like the 21st century when you look at how he's had success at different places.
Right.
And I think that could be what that younger team needs to kind of get a kick in the pants. But you're right. I could see them making a run at a guy like maybe like an Anthony Santander or someone that's a free agent to add to that offense because they had some decent pitching.
Right.
So
could they be that one of those low revenue mystery teams that's getting rumored with Juan Soto?
Maybe, but man, I don't know.
I almost feel like that's just one of those typical rumors that's kind of out there.
I feel like that's something that an agent puts out there, like, oh no, we're not just looking at the big teams,
right?
But
yeah,
that's kind of like the thing that's kind of been rumored out there with Roki Sasaki, Japanese pitcher, like who is going to be posted, and they're like, well, he'll probably go to the Dodgers. It's like, well, doesn't necessarily sound like that might be the case. So, but it's kind of one of those, well, we'll believe when we see it things.
Right. Good work, man.
Thank you.
In there.
This actually didn't take me very much time.
Hey, don't sell yourself short. You're an incredible slouch. Catch your breath now. We're going to take a quick break, okay? Good stuff, man. All right, quick break here. We're going to get to a little football chat here before we get to our picks and predicts. Football coming up in just a couple minutes. Hey, tomorrow starting at 1 p.m., our good friends at the VFW Post 305 got a relaunch parking lot party going on starting at 1 p.m. So if you got nothing going on, you can stop by, and they'll be featuring games, music, prizes, as well as fried chicken, mashed potatoes, gravy, JoJo's, all the good stuff, a pint of domestic beer soda for only $15, $8 for the kids, no beer for the kids. But that's going on tomorrow at VFW Post 305, and more details to come. But it sounds like Brandon and myself will be doing our annual Festivus show from the VFW Post 305 that morning. So you'll get to try the taco omelet.
Yes.
Think about that, man. So,
And that's, look, that Festivus is on a Monday.
Yep. And we got a Packer game that night, too. So,
and I got no work that day.
Yep. And I got no work tomorrow the next day. So
let's have some fun, people.
Yep. Exactly. So we'll get some more details worked out and such. But big thanks to VFW Post 305 for saying, yeah, we want you. So that'll be fun. And maybe a lot of people too. Maybe they don't have work, so they can stop by and hang out with us
Or
that day,
maybe you got some last minute shopping you're gonna go do that day. But you know what? Before you go do it,
grab some B-Fast, right? Breakfast and hang out with us.
Some breakfast in a can or some breakfast on a plate.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Both.
So I'm excited for you to try the taco omelet, man. That'll be good. That'll be really good. We got football back in action. It started off last night. The Eagles picking up a victory over the Commanders, which has changed this tight NFC standings in the playoff chase. It moved Green Bay up a spot, and Washington is now in that 7th spot there. But we've got the Packers taking on the Bears here. Your Vikings taking on the Titans. Lions get the Mac Jones Jaguars. Jaguars. We're second half of the season kind of starts
this
now.
This is the second half push right here.
Let me I'll ask you the question and we answer it for our respective teams. The biggest question mark you have about your team for the second half is
how consistent can Sam Darnold play? Because I think overall he's been really good, especially when you consider expectations. Obviously, he's coming off a pretty rough game against the Jaguars. I think the biggest thing for me, even if I want to get a little bit more specific to that, is can Sam Darnold limit turnovers? At some level, he's just kind of got that in him.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not unlike Jordan Love a little bit, except Jordan Love's younger and you kind of hope it can come out, you can kind of get worked out of him. Whereas Sam Darnold, that just might be who he is.
Mm-hmm.
But if he can limit his turnovers, I think this Vikings team can be pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
But because and maybe it's because I haven't watched him with Sam Darnold, but like seeing him play, like you can kind of see sometimes why he thinks he can make some of these throws because he has really good arm talent. He makes some throws that you're kind of like, whoa, I was kind of expecting that. I mean, he's a big, strong guy.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes, discretion is the better part of valor. You gotta just take it down a notch. Like take the check down, even though, as Vikings fans, we get mad at Kirk Cousins for taking the check down too much. It's okay to do it sometimes.
Right.
But to me, that's the biggest thing. If Sam Darnold can limit his turnovers, I think they have the ability to be good.
Mm-hmm.
And I was saying you.
Oh, for me, I mean, there's a couple of different things we could go here, but I'm going to keep. I mean, I know a lot of people will probably say the defensive front and pressure and quarterbacks, but I'm going to go with this route because they're going to get tested right away on Sunday. Red zone offense for Green Bay, 29th in the league, going up against the number 1 red zone defense in the league. Because to me, it's frustrating. Like, it's mind-boggling to me a little bit here when I see when Matt LaFleur first came aboard in 2019, they were third best. 2020, they were the best red zone team in the world, in the league. 2021, they dropped down to like 14th. Then 2022, they dropped in the 20s, I think. And then last year it was in the late teens. And now this year they're 29th. And I'm like, why? Why the first 2 years were they so good at it? The only denominator in this thing is that Hackett was gone. And Hackett was in charge of the red zone. Because at least in his first year, you still had Adams and Rodgers and all that. So it wasn't just, Rodgers and Adams. No, there was, and I know I think Stenovich still does some stuff with the red. There's no reason for me why this offense should struggle in the red zone when you've got different options. You've got Jordan Love, you've got Josh Jacobs, you've got Tucker Kraft, and you've got those those receivers. And when I look at the schedule, when you've got San Francisco, you've got Miami, you've got Detroit, you better be putting up some points,
right?
Instead of field goals.
Say the interesting thing too with that is like it's kind of surprising for a team to struggle that much in the red zone when they're such a good running team.
Yeah,
you wouldn't think that it would be the case,
right?
Because the run game, like passing game, I kind of get a little bit. Like, look, when you're in a shorter field, there's just certain things you can't do. But your running game, like same thing. Like that doesn't necessarily change too much. You don't have zone run plays versus maybe like zone pass plays.
Right. Let me you bring up something too, because we were talking about it in the first hour. But okay, so the top, like Green Bay's the third in terms of yards per game this season. They're top 10 in passing yards per game, which is a little surprising, and top 3 overall yards. But they're 29th in touchdown and red zone, touchdown efficiency. So like Baltimore's up there a lot with the passing, and obviously rushing. They're the number 1 red zone offense, which makes complete sense when you think about it. It's like Derrick Henry, Lamar Jackson, and all that stuff. San Francisco is the other team that is tops and offensive yards. You know what's interesting though? They're 28th in red zone too. And I know they missed Christian McCaffrey for pretty much all this season besides last year. But you look at the makeup of San Francisco and you kind of look at Green Bay, it's like, okay, they both have running backs, right? They've both got a gadget type wide receiver if you want, Debo, Jaden Reed, George Kittle, Tucker Kraft. They got a lot of similarities with that.
They have options.
San Francisco's struggling a little bit too. Now, I don't know if that's because McCaffrey had missed so much time over there, but they got to figure out the red zone for me, the offense, especially when you look at, you got San Francisco coming. I'm not taking for granted Miami. That's a team that I feel like they could put up 50 on one night if they wanted to, if they're all healthy on offense. At Detroit, we already know. So I want to see this red zone offense get, but that's my biggest question mark heading into this thing. So, but what did, and the thing is too with this Bears game, maybe I'm overthinking it, Brandon. You got Thomas Brown, former Badger running back coach, as the new offensive coordinator. They're not going to completely overhaul the offense.
No, you can't. You can't change everything in the middle of the year.
But they're going to do at least a few things different, right?
You'd hope so if you're a Bears fan.
Right. And part of it is like, okay, are they going to simplify it more for Caleb Williams? Is that the change they're going to do? So he's not like last week, I think it was evident New England confused the heck out of him and he ends up getting sacked 9 times. Are they going to almost go back to square one and almost simplify things a little bit? Or are they going to come out with more gadgety type of stuff?
That's a good question. Like, how do you make things easy on a quarterback? Generally, you have a good run game, and you get the ball in their hand quick.
Yeah.
Especially when you don't got a good offensive line like the Bears.
Right.
Like, do they make an emphasis on saying, hey, look, we have good receivers. We have DJ Moore. We have Keenan Allen. We have Rome Odunze. Let's make things easier on everybody and find ways to get them the ball earlier.
Yeah.
Keep our quarterback from getting hit. Make it easy on him. Maybe let Caleb Williams settle into a bit of a rhythm. Those are the things I think I would look to do, because it's not like it's not a bad thing to make things easier on your quarterback.
Right.
No, especially when you're a rookie. Like run the ball. Like if they could, run the ball, obviously that's going to help the quarterback. It's just something that's off display, helps your defense too, keeps them off the field against, what we said is a talented Packers offense.
Right. And that's where you make a good point for that too. Is it going to be a quicker passing game? Is it going to be getting the ball out quicker? Which, if I'm Jeff Hafley and I'm the Packers defensive coaching staff, I at least got to know, like, okay, we're probably going to get some unscouted looks.
Right.
Because it's a new offensive coordinator. It's not going to be completely dead, because that doesn't make sense. It's just not, they're not going to like, hey, we're going to throw out this playbook and here's a brand new thing.
Right.
Learn it in 2 days.
We're going to be running the wishbone now. Like, no, you're
Right.
not doing that in the middle of the year. There's a reason that in the offseason, you have all of your offseason workout into training camp when you're installing things. It
Right.
takes a while.
Yep, exactly. So it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. And to me is like, are we going to see that right away? Are they going to see that right away, or is that going to be, because I got to imagine Chicago playing at home offensively. Are they going to want to jump out right away and try to jump out to a lead right away? Because I feel like if you're Hafley, you got to be preaching your defense, play with your head on a swivel, fundamental, do your job, assignment prone, because we don't really know what to use another boxing analogy, are they going to come out swinging right away? Are they going to come out punching right away and try to give you a knockout right away? Or are they going to do a little of the, dancing around trying to feel the opponent out sort of thing?
Yeah.
And they got to be prepared for both of those instances.
Right.
So.
And this is going to be very interesting because I'm kind of curious if the Bears come out slow, angsty. How angsty is the Soldier Field crowd? Because they were obviously angsty last week. They were chanting "Fire Flus."
Yeah. Yeah.
And when you're a head coach and you're kind of up against it, you got only so many buttons you can push.
Yep.
And Matt Eberflus has kind of pushed most of them. You're not going to bench Caleb Williams because you're just not going to.
Right.
Any talk of that is ridiculous. But he did kind of what he could do.
Mm-hmm.
He fired the offensive coordinator that he brought in.
An offensive coordinator too that, they brought in Kingsbury for an interview and decided not. And I don't know, maybe Cliff Kingsbury didn't want it because
and maybe it was the fit.
Yeah, and at that time too, it was like, is Eberflus a lame duck coach? It was kind of hard, sort of thing. But
crazy that the Bears, for the third time in a row, drafted a quarterback with what could be a lame duck coach.
Yeah,
they did it with Mitch Trubisky and John Fox. They did it with Matt Nagy and
Justin
Fields, and now they've done it with Matt Eberflus.
Good point.
And I'm not gonna kind of relitigate that, but my feeling was like, if you were gonna draft Caleb Williams, and Caleb Williams was the answer. Like we can look at Jane Daniels or Drake May or whoever and say, oh, they should have did that. Like, no, Caleb Williams was the number one pick. Like he was the guy. But I don't feel like they, in some ways, they did what they should have done to help him. They brought in good receivers. He's got a good supporting cast when it comes to the skill players. The offensive line still needs work.
Yes.
But I still think maybe that's the time you bring in a coach. You bring in an offensive-minded coach, and you pair them together, and then those two can worry about growing together instead of Matt Eberflus worrying about, boy, if we don't have a good year, I'm going to lose my job.
And it's, it goes back to the question of because there was this talk, I know Kurt Warner said earlier that Caleb Williams should be benched, and help him out. And it goes back. Now everybody's asking again the question about should you bench, should rookie quarterbacks play right away or that? Well, you got an example of Jane Daniels where it's working out really well. And I think a lot of that, though, is the structure, the coaching staff, the situation you're putting at play.
I think, situation's everything. It's not a good thing. But it's not the worst thing in the world, in my opinion, that J.J. McCarthy will not play this year with the Vikings. Because, coming off this last game where Sam Darnold struggled, there would be a certain amount of Vikings fans think, we got to go J.J. McCarthy here.
Right.
And I'm just glad that that's not in the conversation. And for this case, now, I don't think you bench Caleb Williams. I just think you need to look at yourself and say, hey, what can we do to help him out more?
Right.
What can we do at this stage of the game to make things a little bit easier for him?
Yep. No, I totally agree. And you look at that with, what it's a credit to the game plan for what Washington's doing with Jane Daniels, Kingsbury. Yes, he had weapons around him with like Terry McLaurin and that sort of stuff too. But they made sure, you have to, if you're going to go out there and Dan Quinn in Washington was very early, yeah, Jane's our starter. Okay. You're putting a rookie quarterback out there. Now it's your job to make him succeed, to help him succeed. And I don't in Chicago, yes, they got Roma Dunze and they got all that stuff. Obviously, the coaching didn't do a good enough job for whatever game plans. And then you look at the offensive line too. The front office kind of failed that part too.
Right. Because you always knew this was a possibility. Unless things went Urban Meyer bad, Dan Quinn knew, hey, even if we struggle this year, this is still, your quarterback and your coach are married.
Yeah.
Dan Quinn knew the second he got that job and they drafted Jane Daniels. If Jane Daniels is a bust, I'm fired.
Right. Exactly.
But so, versus, with the Bears where it's like, if with Washington, if one of those guys ends up not working, then they're both not working. In this case, if Matt Eberflus doesn't work, Caleb Williams could survive that. I'm a big believer in pairing, when you have a scenario like this, pairing it when you can. Gerard Mayo, pair with Drake May.
Yep.
And they handled that well too, where he didn't start right away, but they gave him enough time until they felt comfortable. And he Drake May he's kind of hit or miss, but it looks like he knows what he's doing. He's not just totally lost.
Right.
That's just not a very talented offense right now.
Right. No, totally agree with you. All right, let's take a break so we can get to some picks and predicts here. Lots of them, including Boxing. Heck yeah. I'm getting way too excited for something that's probably going to suck tonight, but it is what it is. Quick break. We'll be back in just 2 minutes. When was the last time you looked up into that left-hand corner of your windshield at the oil change sticker? Hey, now that you just realized it's been a while because, well, you're overdue for a change there. Where to go? Simple. ASAP Used Auto Parts in Eau Claire. Not only is ASAP Used Auto Parts your go-to spot for high-quality used auto parts and new tires, they're your go-to spot when it comes to oil changes as well. Don't wait any longer. Get that oil change today by giving ASAP Used Auto Parts a call, 715-514-4501. Also, quick reminder, too, we've got Best Holiday Ever going on. Go to aroundthe715.com or sportstalk1051.com. Click on that fan cave tab. And for Backyard Dreams, we want to take some kiddos Christmas shopping again this year. So nominate a child that we can take Christmas shopping. And then November 26th from 10 a.m. to noon, we're going to be over at Hy-Vee. And we're going to be handing out some turkeys too. So if you know of anybody, a family, or maybe it's yourself, and maybe just funds are a little bit low this year, we want to get you a turkey. So stop by November 26th from 10 a.m. to noon at our good friends.
That's a
Hy-Vee.
Tuesday.
It's a Tuesday.
Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
Yep, exactly. So, All right, picks and predicts.
Let's do it.
Let's
Rapid fire.
Yeah, exactly. So we got to get through this thing. Let's do college football first, Brandon. Let's do I'm gonna throw this one in here just because why not? Utah at Colorado.
I'm gonna go Colorado.
Yeah.
Utah's struggling.
Yeah, I'll go Colorado too. Let's do boy. Kind of some Missouri at South Carolina, 23-21.
South Carolina.
I'm going to go
Frank
South
Beamer.
Carolina. Let's go Tennessee at Georgia.
Georgia.
Georgia got bounced
They
back.
bounced back, yeah.
Yep. And then let's do, well, we'll just do it. Wisconsin. Oregon, Wisconsin. The line 13.5.
I will take Oregon
Covers that.
Covers.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oregon covers. Hammer it down.
Hope I'm wrong, but I don't think I am.
Badger basketball tonight. Let me see if I can get the line here quick. But Badger basketball tonight taking on the Arizona Wildcats.
I will take Arizona. What's the line?
I'm trying to.
I mean,
bring it
I'll
up
take
right now.
Arizona to win, but
Yeah. Come on. We're okay here. Oh, so that's Marquette's also tonight. I'm going to take Marquette. They're taking on Maryland over there too.
Yep,
So
Marquette.
okay, the line is 4.5.
Yeah, I'll take Arizona. I think I'll say Arizona by 8.
Yeah, I think Arizona wins, but it's going to
I
be
think
under
Wisconsin
double.
hangs around.
Mhm.
I think the Colts Center, for the reasons you mentioned, will be rocking.
Yep.
More so than it usually is. So Wisconsin hangs in there, but Arizona's just better.
Yeah, I agree. Let's do some NFL picks. Jolene is dominating right now.
Jolene
109. I'm tied with a few of you at 105 for second. Brandon alone in third.
I'm right behind you.
104. So here we go. Let's do some picks here. Did you get the one right last night?
I did.
Attaboy, me too. Let's go Jacksonville at Detroit.
Detroit.
Raiders at Miami.
Miami.
Rams at the Patriots.
Even though they're going across a couple time zones, I'll go Rams.
I'll go Rams too. Browns at the Saints.
Browns.
I'm going Browns too in the Jameis Winston revenge game. That's the only thing I can pipe that up. Baltimore at Pittsburgh.
Good one. I'm going to go Baltimore.
I'm going Baltimore too, man. Let's go Vikings at Tennessee.
I will go the Vikings.
I'll go Vikings too. Colts at the Jets.
Colts starting Anthony Richardson.
Yep.
After Joe Flacco was the quarterback for the rest of the year for 2 weeks.
Are not letting Flacco have the revenge game.
I'm going to go Jets.
I'm going Jets too. Atlanta at Denver.
I'm going to go Denver.
I'm going Falcons bouncing back from an awful loss against the Saints last week.
Ooh.
But Denver had an awful loss too against the Chiefs with that blocked field goal. Seattle at San Fran.
San Fran.
Me too. I'm going to save this one because it's a huge one.
It is.
Cincinnati at the Chargers.
This is a Sunday night game. I'm going to go Cincinnati.
I'm going Cincinnati with this too. Houston at Dallas.
I'm going to go with the football team from Texas. I'm going to go Houston.
I'm going Houston too. They need a win actually because they're 6-4
Yeah,
right now. So this is the game of the weekend. No question about it. Chiefs at the Bills.
I'm going to take Chiefs, but man, I was tempted to take the Bills. I was, but I'm going to take Chiefs.
Well, it's going to be we're going to have a change in standings between you and me because I'm going with the Bills for this one.
All right.
Well, maybe not because we got two
split.
wrong.
Yeah,
we
can
could split that. So
well, so far we have 2 wrong.
Yeah, that's true. Packers, Bears.
Packers.
I'm gonna go Packers too for this one. So let's do then. We got to do it, man.
Yeah, we do.
The fight of the 2024 year.
The fight of November.
Yeah. Paul Tyson. Who you got, man? And what round? Because they're only going 10 rounds, right? Yeah.
I'm gonna take Paul round 4.
What?
Yeah.
Okay, Paul. Okay, but round 4 knockout. Wow.
This guy, Mike Tyson, was in a wheelchair not that long ago.
He's still Mike Tyson.
Look,
that could be all of a mind game, bro.
Here's the thing. I want Mike Tyson to win. I want Mike Tyson to knock Mr. Paul out. I don't think that's going to happen, though, because Mike Tyson is like 60-something.
No, he's in his 50s.
Yeah,
50 right.
Something. That's right. He was young, but still, it's just such a bummer to me because if Jake Paul wins, he's going to say, I beat Mike Tyson. It's like, no, you didn't.
Yeah.
It's like somebody beating Aaron Rodgers right now and saying, "Oh yeah, we dominate Aaron Rodgers." Like you dominate, like it's a shell.
Yeah.
It's sad. It's unfortunate.
This is why Tyson will win. Paul made the mistake of wearing shoes yesterday and stepping on Mike Tyson's toes on the stage, and it pissed off Tyson to where he slapped him. Now Tyson's like all angry in that. I'm way too into this because of the nostalgia factor of this, and I want boxing to be great again. I want this sport to be great again. It's not, unfortunately, but this is the only thing I have left to grasp on. This is Rocky Balboa in real time when Rocky gets asked to come back and fight Mason Dixon in Vegas. They go the distance, and Mason Dixon still wins.
Well, spoiler.
Yeah, sorry. If you haven't seen that in the last 20-some years,
I'm getting around to watching Titanic this weekend.
I don't even think it's been 20 years. It's been a little close to 20 years. But anyways, Tyson wins 9th.
All right. I hope you're right.
I do too.
I hope you're right.
Do you think it's real or staged?
I think it's real. But there's just so much other stuff that goes into it. I'm just like, ugh.
Yep.
But no, I don't think it's staged.
I hope Tyson comes out and just starts wailing on him right away. Even if he just comes out guns a-blazing and then like runs out of gas in the second round, at least if he just comes out and just like it's like
bombs,
Clubber Lang in Rocky
fine.
3.
That's fine.
He's like Clubber Lang in Rocky 3.
Come on, Mike.
Then that means Paul's taking the shots like Rocky. He's like, come on. And then he gets tired. Don't do that part. Come on, Mike. Think of your punch-out days, man.
Do it for Lil Mac.